Please welcome to the stage the chair of the SVA Products of Design Department, Alan Chochinov.
Hello, and welcome to the 8th annual SVA MFA Products of Design Thesis presentations. I'm Alan Chochinov. I'm so happy that you're joining us. Normally, we would be here at the SVA Theater on 23rd Street in Manhattan. Here's what the outside looks like. And if you were to go inside, here's what the inside would normally look like. But today, it actually kind of looks like this. Because the fact of the matter is we recorded tonight's presentation safely in the SVA Theater last week. But the students had to imagine that they were, that you were with them in this theater today. But tonight we're here, well, online. And although we are not in the theater, we are all here together. And we are all live right here, right now. And a wonderful way to be live with these students and live with each other is to participate in the chat window. So the chat window is over here, but in order to be able to post in the chat window, you need to be logged into YouTube. And you might be saying, but I don't have a YouTube account. To which we would answer, well, if you have Gmail, then you do have a YouTube account, and you just have to click over here and sign in, and then you'll be in the chat window, and then we can all say yay. And I'm bringing this up now because the participation in tonight is going to be half the fun for sure. But let's try this thing out now that you are logged in, and let's type into the chat window, hello class of 2021. No, really, type it in. Okay, good. Now type into the chat window the city that you are tuning in from. Great. And finally, maybe we can have a blizzard of chats wishing luck to the person that you are here to cheer on. Or maybe you're here to cheer on design. Or maybe you want to wish good luck to a big empty space of potential and possibility for the future. So you can go ahead and type that in, and definitely let's keep this thing rolling. So tonight's presentation, the MFA Products of Design Thesis. You are going to meet 14 incredible designers, each with so much to share with you. These students have completed their second year of the program entirely online, without the propulsion of the studio experience or access to making spaces. So we really want to congratulate them on their fortitude, their passion, and their commitment to the thesis, which is their signature work. So the Products of Design program, as many of you may know, we teach every flavor of design in our program. And so unlike a lot of thesis presentations, these aren't going to be the sort of first research and second solution variety. Rather, you're going to see many products of design. For instance, design research, we will actually start with research. Moving on to systems design, design strategy, physical products, digital products, human-centered design, planet-centered design, interaction design, platform design, policy design, social innovation design, service design, experience design, business modeling, and branding, and maybe a few other things attached. But in addition, the students are creating, writing, and producing hardcover thesis books, which you'll be able to see at our website at productsofdesign.sva.edu. And so this is going to be a deep dive into the myriad products of design for a world that so desperately needs the power of design. And I would say, bottom line, tonight is a display of the promise of design capacity. And that might be a nice thing for you to keep in mind as you're watching the students' presentations. Before we begin, some thanks to the families and loved ones of the class of 2021. I always like to start with the families. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the students. To SVA leadership, David Rhodes, Tony Rhodes, and Chris Cyphers. To Stephen Heller, co-founder of this program, Emily Ross, and my SVA colleagues and community. Thank you to our incredible staff, Christina Lee, Marco Enriquez, Elspeth Walker. You can go ahead and applaud, even from home. Chester Doles and Jane Fujita, and the SVA theater and staff, video destination for post-production, and the collected works for branding. And I especially want to thank the Products of Design faculty, and particularly the Products of Design Thesis faculty tonight for stewarding the students to this climax of their projects. The Products of Design alumni who have helped coach these students in preparation for this presentation. Of course, the first year students, we'll see you all here next year. And of course, I want to thank the graduating class of 2021. It's been a great honor to work with you, and we're going to miss you. So, just a reminder, all of the presenting students are online right now in the chat window. I think that way, maybe that way. Guess we'll find out. And they are live. Please tag us with 8th with an 8 in the middle and SVA POD. Thank you for coming. And on a Friday night too, so this is a bit of a celebration. There's our celebration. We are proud to present this year's annual thesis event, and we're thrilled that you're all here to join us. So, enjoy the show.
Please welcome to the stage our first presenter, Hong Ruen.
Hello everyone, my name is Hong Yuan, and I'm excited to be sharing with you today. I would like to start with a Chinese expression. It pronounced Kong Chao. Of course, it has English version, empty nest. Empty nesters means the parents whose children have grown and moved away from home. But here, I want to talk about elderly empty nesters. In the United States, the elderly empty nesters are more acceptable to their life without children. However, it seems harder for Chinese to enjoy elderly life alone. As the largest elderly group in the world, I'm highly concerned about them. So I'm determined to reframe this problem, trying to reveal the sense behind empty nest. And so I'm pleased to present to you my thesis work, Intergenerate, a set of design offerings for Chinese empty nesters. To better understand their condition, I immerse myself in books and papers from psychology to sociology. I also engage with many expert stakeholders and empty nesters. I make a system map to analyze the process of empty nest. But what exactly is empty nest itself? I try to deconstruct it through 3 perspectives: medical, social, philosophical. Min-Xin Qiu, a Chinese social worker, said, "The idea of raising children for old age is rooted in the Chinese elderly's minds." So I decided to kick off the thesis from the medical perspective. As a psychologist, Dr. Lan said, the elderly usually resist accepting mental treatments due to traditional social stigma. I realized that judging a group without considering cultural factors is likely to be arbitrary. According to Chinese culture, the bond of family is always the most important. Bonding is based on this idea. It's a mental health platform connecting elderly patients and their children as a way to provide long-distance caregiving. When you first download Bonding, you can choose your character, a caregiving family member, or an elderly parent that may need some support. As an adult child, the bonding platform can provide a way for you to help your parents find expert therapists and counselors. And if you are an elderly person using the app, you can be accompanied by your child during online counseling if that's the right fit. And so, through our Strict platform, the elderly may more easily accept mental health support. Dr. Lan also encouraged me to think about deteriorating mental health in a different way. He said that mental illness is not a result, but a process. So I wanted to take a more preventive approach to negotiate this problem. Hence, I envisioned Blue Alert, a platform that takes advantage of AI technology to analyze the communication in chat and the messaging exchanges between the elderly and their children, in order to detect possible early warning signs of worsening mental health or depression. Blue Alert can analyze the text and the tone of chatting records. And adult children can receive a weekly assessment report. These reports can serve as the basis for possible medical intervention. To get a reaction from the elderly and adult children about the concept, I tested it with users and user experts. And they told me that, again, it's hard for people suffering from mental illness to admit their sufferings. So in order to try to bridge the challenge, I designed an IP character, Blue Baby, a character that reflects different mental states for the elderly. Hence, I'm attempting to personalize the depression and other mental health challenges in order to normalize them. Finally, I want to add that for adult children, Blue Alert is not just a warming application. Rather, it's also a reminder for paying attention to the mental health needs and supporting to their parents. During research, I found that for the elderly, loneliness can be the leading reason for psychological and emotional challenges. A Chinese writer Kgothatso once said, "Empty nesters are like an island," which inspires me to reflect on empty nest from a social perspective. In our life, there are two main kinds of relationships: family relationships and social relationships. Families play an important role to Chinese. However, long distance makes the family hard to keep intimacy. Inspired by this insight, I envision Horn, an interactive device supporting empty nest families to make a tight connection across distance and language. It has two parts. Adult children control the app side, and the main parts hands on the elderly's world. Let me show the video to introduce one of user journeys. The adult children and the elderly could also check the circle line to customize the symbols to deliver different emotions to each other. Let us guess what he's trying to deliver. Yes, it's love. How about this one? It means I'm missing home. Last, but hardest one. It symbolizes my brain is like a mess, so please do not bother me now. The intriguing activity could enhance the daily interaction between elderly and their children. Our vision is to cross distance and language boundaries to keep family intimacy. UX professor Yuan said, if technology evolves quickly, other people may experience another digital gap. The elderly may feel abandoned by society when they are out of mainstream social networks. I get inspiration from my youth experience about playing pokers with my grandma. Allow me to walk you through my product, Flashcards. It's an easy poker designed for learning smartphones. It could feel easier to memorize and practice on breathing tips with others. I prototype it and test it. Actually, these cards didn't really work well as deals, so I cooperate AR with it. I'm going to show you a video demo about how it works. If the elderly empty nest know how to use smartphones, it will be supportive for them to keep and create social relationships. After I talked with my users, I found that people's mindset will influence their motivation to seek relationships. One chapter of Co-Designing with Old People mentions that everything is a matter of attitude for us. I want to think about it through a philosophical perspective. Robert Walker also reminds me, this is important for old people to recognize that they are not victims, they have something different. I was inspired by sharing economy. Yes, sharing is the key point. If people always accept help from others, they will feel they are delicate. This thinking will influence their mindset to make them become negative and dependent. However, if they can share something with others, they will feel more powerful about themselves, which also strengthens their self-value. Charge is a skill sharing platform designed for the elderly. People could upload videos about their skills and hobbies and collect fictional energy, which can exchange some course that they are interested in. This inner loop keeps the platform energetic. Everyone has an opportunity to show their value to the world, even if they are elderly empty nesters. Martin Buber once said, "All real living is meeting." We are actively thinking to build or join communities we can be a part of. So I extend this sharing mode to our community concept. Mutual is a sharing ecosystem platform. It has two main parts, Mutual Garden and Mutual Kitchen. You could apply for joining Mutual Garden on our website. Community workers will give you guidance. With their help, you could easily join our big family. Laboring together is the best way to build tight relationships. After harvest, you could also bring fresh food to the Mutual Kitchen to have a party. Through sharing recipes and food to rebuild recognition about self-value. We want to introduce our mode to society through branding, sharing our concept. Your smile is our best gift. One entry back to review my whole thesis journey, building reactive and preventive medical mechanisms, keeping and creating relationships, sharing and generating self-value. I deconstruct empty nest from syndrome to a mindset. I come to realize that we may not be able to stop empty nest, but at least we could learn to touch sunshine. Thank you.
Joey, thank you so much.
Thank you, Alan.
So can I ask, there was a personal relationship that you had to this topic, really from the start. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. Because I want to strengthen the connection with my grandma, because I have been in New York for 2 years. Because the pandemic, I didn't have chance to go back to my own country. So actually, every time I had a call with my grandma, I can feel that she's very lonely and really miss me, and I have the similar emotion.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I think it's that the emotion pushed me to choose this Caesar topic as well.
To increase connection.
Yeah, yes.
Right. And tell me a little bit more about Koan, this amazing product that really turns ideas and emotions into an abstraction. But then the drawings aren't so abstract. Like I love the game that you played where we had to guess if it was a heart, love, or home, missing home. Tell us a little bit more about that project.
Yeah, actually, I guess the inspiration from I used the product, and I think actually the language actually is it doesn't help the people to build a really connection. So I want to design something, some device to break through the boundaries and the distance. So so that's I figure out the corn. Yeah, so that's it.
Are there any shapes that you were thinking? Do you want to try doing a shape now? How about please write to me more?
Let me think. I guess?
Envelope?
No, it's a pen.
Oh, it's a pen.
Yeah.
So a real industrial designer. Okay.
Yeah.
What about did you eat today?
Let me think. It's hard.
You're making it tricky.
Yeah, yes.
Cutlery?
No,
Tell me.
chopsticks.
Okay.
Chinese culture.
My bias. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, right away. Joey, you said one other thing. It was actually on the screen. Martin Buber's beautiful quote: "All real living is meeting."
Yeah.
Did you learn that quote early on in the process or later on? Because it seems to really penetrate, almost mediate all of the work that we saw from your presentation.
Yeah. Actually, it's the one of the speech of the John Sakura, and she showed this sentence to us, and this sentence really influenced me in my thesis. So I start to change my direction from the digital gap to the relationships. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this sentence really influenced me.
A beautiful transformation. Thank you so much, Joey.
Thank you, Alan.
Please welcome to the stage Regena Paloma Reyes.
Hello everyone, my name is Regena Paloma Reyes. I'm a service designer, a New York City resident, and an urban enthusiast. Today, I'm excited to share with you the results of my year-long study on the elements that make cities resilient in the face of crises like the COVID-19 pandemic. I present to you N-3 plus me equals urban resilience at the human scale. Contemporary discourse in urban resilience is rooted in system engineering. In this discipline, and the letter N represents a system at equilibrium, known as homeostasis. This is the state where the system functions optimally. A -3 represents 3 elements that are negatively impacting that equilibrium. Now, looking at this mathematical expression of resilience, I felt that something was missing, and I wondered to myself, where are all the people? If cities are made of people and places, then why is the human experience conspicuously absent from our models for urban resilience? A city is nothing without its people, and so I added an expression to the equation from earlier to highlight this. That plus me that you see, that's you. There is a unique human element to urban resilience, and that is the point of view that we will explore today. This past year, I watched the COVID-19 pandemic attack 3 pillars of urban equilibrium: personal protection, interpersonal connection, and community engagement. The ensuing body of research investigates ways that products of design can help city dwellers be more resilient in face of crisis. This exploration is in service of New Yorkers, particularly those who will stay in the city during the crisis because they either cannot leave or will not leave. To dissect the nuances of cities, I conversed with experts in varying professions to understand what it would take to bring human experiences to the forefront of the discourse around urban resilience. These discussions culminated in the understanding that disaster is not an event, it is a consequence. Revisiting the human nature of cities, I redefine urban resilience as the extent to which city residents are able to mitigate disastrous consequences. The following products of design are a collection of items to help urban residents maintain their urban equilibrium by protecting themselves, connecting with others, and engaging with the people and places around them. An early interview with Kgothatso revealed that addressing fear might be the key to unleashing resilience, while Tommy Xu contended that the entire purpose of preparation is so that people don't need to recover from a disaster. Synthesizing these insights with research that I had found earlier in my investigation, I came to recognize that personal protection, defined as the ability to secure yourself, to be the first foundation of urban resilience. Consequently, I concepted a multi-threat hazmat wardrobe called Anti. The inspiration for Anti came at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, where there was much fear about tracking the virus back on your clothing when you go out to the grocery store or run other necessary errands. Anti designs against disaster by creating a culture around clothing that is inherently composed of protective fabrics, like Tyvek and Nomex, that are respectively antimicrobial and fire retardant. Literally beginning as a DIY garbage bag hazmat suit, Anti progressed through product refinement and reached a minimum viable product rendered in shower curtain liner and duct tape. Anti creates hype around stylish yet functional garments that people can purchase as a wardrobe, and as they do so, they buy into a future where personal protection is the reigning culture, and that culture is Anti's agenda. Imagine if our wardrobes were designed not only to just cover our bodies, but to protect them from microbes, from fire, chemicals, and particulate matter. That would be a world where personal protection is the prevailing culture, and that is our agenda. Moving beyond protecting the individual, Fidel Harfouche highlighted that very few people get through tough times alone, with community forming the backbone of resilience. Likewise, Adam Cooper added that stories might be the best medium to address fear because stories engage and encourage. What I learned from my subject matter experts is that preparedness mitigates fear, while relationships forge strength. However, New Yorkers live mostly among strangers, and many of us like it that way. Unfortunately, this phenomenon of urban anonymity can create feelings of isolation and loneliness, presenting a uniquely urban threat to resilience. This understanding led me to devise a way for city residents to connect with nearby strangers, while retaining the option to maintain their anonymity. I present to you Momento. People often move to cities to enjoy the freedom and independence that comes with no one knowing anything about you. So, Momento reframes the role that social cohesion plays in urban settings to balance connectedness with discretion. Logging in allows you to see what's going on in the lives of people around you and how others are anonymously sharing stories, solidarity, and strength. Though Momento is designed as a social sharing service, it also doubles as a resilience gym, where you can work with a coach to develop disaster plans for your family or target a specific goal like overcoming a fear, while also building mental and emotional resilience. This 2B journey map of the Momento experience highlights the intended outcome of consistent participation. As users engage with one another over time, their sense of resilience begins to displace their sense of isolation and loneliness because they have spent time encouraging and mentoring others while being mentored and encouraged in return. Momento helps users combat urban isolation at their own pace by affording them the ability to balance the connectedness of life in a close-knit society with life in a megacity. While formulating product constructs that build personal and interpersonal resilience, Catherine Santana steered me toward looking at my products from a cultural angle. Along those lines, Plainer Atlason pointed out that products are cultural signals that reveal people's tendencies and their worldviews. As I immersed myself in mid-pandemic New York City, I noticed many people exhibiting signs of wanting to serve their communities, but just not knowing how to do so. With this problem in mind, I toyed with product ideas to build a local culture of community investment, both financial and emotional. Local Board is a service concept to unite urban people and businesses around local investments. It is an alternative financial marketplace that enables city residents to reap social and financial returns for funding small businesses. Local Board works with business owners to ensure that a portion of the funding that they receive gets deployed directly in support of community-driven initiatives. Resident investors can choose from 3 tiers of membership to take advantage of the tools and benefits that they need to make the most of their own local community. While there are several services offering investment in private companies, those offerings focus primarily on financial returns. Therefore, they appeal to professionals who are looking to make sizable investments. Furthermore, none of them are focused on local companies, and none are committed to making a local impact. Local Board advocates for a culture of community investment that helps local businesses to thrive while they also develop the communities that they serve. This service systematically supports community advancement by collaborating with local leadership and aligning with community-driven initiatives. The lived experience of city residents is critical to urban resilience. I would argue even more so than physical infrastructure and engineering models. Jinjun Huang reminds us that anything that is resilient has a backup, because if any part of that system fails, it can still function. Remember, disaster is not an event, it is a consequence. Today's product selection mitigates disastrous consequences and unleashes resilience by helping city residents to protect themselves, to connect with others, and to invest in the people and places around them. I would like to thank the audience for attending our thesis presentations today, as well as everyone who helped me through this body of research and program of study. There is an entire city block of family, friends, mentors, and colleagues who have completed this program right alongside me, serving as my own source of resilience and strength. Thank you all.
Regena, thank you. So I have such fond memories in the beginning in that project, the DIY hazmat dress that you did. And I remember that everybody was like freaking out because people were worried about what we now understand as fomites. That there was virus on surfaces. We didn't know what to do. And so I thought that this dress was so inspired, especially as a speculative object for the future, but for like right now. So tell us a little bit more about that. You worked with a fashion designer, a fashion design student to do the pattern?
I work with my mom, actually. I guess the original fashion design student. And so she just has a very strong talent for cutting patterns. And so we started with a off-the-shelf pattern from Walmart. And then we just customized the pieces that we wanted to customize, like the sleeves and how it would fit in the bodice and the skirt. So it was hybrid, working with a pattern that existed and then just tweaking it to what we wanted it to really look like.
And the idea is that people could make their own, tearing down their shower
Yes.
curtain and getting some duct tape.
Yes, exactly. So in the DIY instructions that I also included for the product, I make a joke to the, I guess, prospective audience that I like my skirts to be short. But if you want a longer one, you totally can, because obviously if it's longer, it's protecting more of your body. But for me, I made the joke in the instructions that I like mine short, so I'm cutting it at this length. But please feel free to cut it at whatever length you want it.
And the shower curtain obviously comes full body length.
Oh yeah, it's huge. So you can make like 2 dresses.
Great. Somebody else, a gift. I wanted to ask you, the move from that speculative product to local board as a platform is pretty extraordinary.
Yes.
Local board started off as an app for donations.
Correct. Yes. Local board is formerly known as the Regulars, which was a service I had created to help local restaurants in particular to collect donations systematically. And then I realized that, as I'm walking around the city, I'm seeing that there's a trend here that these local businesses need more than donations. What they need is continuous support. And that there were a lot of people, like neighbors of mine, who really were heartbroken when certain businesses closed. And they're like, man, I wish I had known sooner. I wish I could have done more.
Right.
So I realized people want to do this. They just don't know that it's available to them.
In a proactive way.
Yes.
Yeah. Now that you've been through this project and been through this pandemic, certainly not over, but things are starting to change in this city. How do you feel about the overall topic of resilience, having been so deeply immersed yourself in this topic, watching the world unfold around you?
Yeah, I think as the pandemic is progressing and hopefully wrapping up, I think that it's even more critical now for us to think about resilience, because a big part of resilience is preparedness. And so it would be a tragedy if we had the losses that we had during this pandemic but didn't take anything and learn to something to do forward. So be more forward thinking about how are we supporting our communities during crisis, but on a daily basis, because if things are running smoothly on a daily basis, then as impacts and shocks come at that system, you might already have mitigated them. But what crises like the COVID-19 pandemic highlighted were places where the system was already failing. So as we become more proactive and looking at places where systems are failing, or maybe not failing, but there are inefficiencies, there are opportunities for growth and expansion, then we do that now in peaceful times, because many were calling COVID a war. So in times of peace, if you're augmenting, if you're expanding and you're refining, so when things really come at you, when there is a major crisis, you're already prepared. I think that's where we need to be right now.
Right. And we'll keep this work in mind as we think and have our hearts open to people around the world who are moving through different phases of this pandemic, thinking about them.
Certainly, yeah.
Thank you so much, Regena.
Thank you, Alan.
Please welcome our next presenter to the stage, Ching Yi Crystal Lo.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for being here today. If you are in a romantic relationship right now, could you please share one tip in the chat window about how you keep your relationship alive? Let me give you some seconds to do that. Okay, these are my grandparents. One is from my dad's side, the other is from my mom's side. Both sides have been married for over 50 years. Love in their time was totally different than love in our time. People nowadays are more likely to replace their partner rather than repairing their relationship when things got tough. I'm Crystal Lo. Today, I'm going to present my thesis work, Sparks. It's about marriage, connection, and design. It all began from fewer people getting married. Also, the divorce rate has stayed flat, which means that people are falling out of love more than they are staying in love. In fact, the average marriage in United States lasts only 7 years. This fact reminds me of a popular belief called 7-year itch. The 7-year itch is a pattern that suggests that the chances of divorce are the highest during the first 7 years of marriage. One of the reasons for it is honeymoon blues. It's a sinking feeling after the big celebration. There's a drop in divorce rate in year 3, as the research shows it is time when couples usually begin having their children. However, once their children are a little bit older, the couple may feel free to transition out of their marriage, and by then they have been married for an average 7 years. Then I conduct a secondary research through the literature and articles around relationship, marriage, and different needs of different partners. I spoke to subject matter experts ranging from psychologists, relationship consultants, as well as long-term married couple and divorced women. In response to my question about 7-year itch, Dr. Solona said that for many couples, satisfaction, fulfillment, and overall happiness decrease after the honeymoon period. But how couples utilize the first 7 years of the marriage, that is key. To understand what married life is really like, I map out the dynamics and consequences in various stages in the marriage. The process for finding a long-term partner in general is assessment, commitment, and marriage. At the commitment stage, couples merge together as a team, which means they take on more physical and emotional responsibility, like children, finances, and house chores. By mapping out the system of marriage, I discovered that every single thing in the marriage is all about deep connection and communication. Dr. Joe told me that with the path of life today, we all communicate, but we don't always connect. However, connection and communication are the two key elements for a healthy relationship. Also, in 2018, nearly 10% of couples complain that their partners spend too much time on their mobile devices. To encourage couples to spend time more meaningfully, communicating face-to-face, I designed Cuddle, a couple's phone charger. The initial idea for the Cuddle came from the observation that mobile phones make couples turn their back to one another. So I designed a product that would help people and their phones live side by side. Cuddle promotes couple time by forcing couples to put their phones on the charging dock at the same time, so both people are off phone. If a partner places only their phone, the dock won't charge. It works only when two phones are on the dock. Cuddle highlights the importance of putting down the phones as a means of recharging the relationship. In addition to spending time connected deeply, Married couples who eat together are 15% more likely to report maximum happiness with their relationship. Those who didn't have any distractions, for example, using their phone, enjoy their meal more than who did use their phone. This means having dinner together is better than alone. However, the satisfaction is still based on their partner's engagement. Using this knowledge, I play around with the idea of helping couples pay more attention to each other at mealtime. The result of my exploration is Wobble. Wobble is designed to be a shaky and tilting serving bowl. Food in Wobble cannot be served like this. It requires couple to be engaged at mealtime by helping another to take the food out of the bowl. If one partner's hand leaves, the food will spill out. This is what it looks like in action. Okay, now let's zoom back out a little bit. We all know that before marriage, dating is an important stage in relationship because it helps couples to get to know each other. However, few couples keep dating habits in their marriage. The National Marriage Project found that people are 14% less likely to break up if they have a regular date night. A long-term married couple I spoke to told me that they always prioritize couples time. They wouldn't put anything before each other. Date nights allowed couples to take a break from their routine life and rekindle the passion. And most importantly, it increases intimacy. But why don't couples have date nights? Some of them are busy, are not a good planner, or they just don't know where to go. So in this case, how might we bring dating back into married life? Lovely Day is a dating service by helping couples curate their date night. By importing both schedules, setting a budget, and design the desired number of dates, Lovely Day makes date night ideas easy. Couples have to choose and rank the activities that each of them prefers to do on the date. Later on, Lovely Day will generate the result based on the ranked voting. It curates 3 plans for couples to choose from. When the couple confirms the plan, Lovely Day will reserve the place. Therefore, all couples need to do is show up at the right place at the right time. Besides having a date, couples have to navigate raising a family. However, childcare can be a source of tension in marriage. 46% of married couples say their intimacy is reduced since having their first kid. Finding a childcare is tough because couples need someone who meets all their standards. For example, flexible time, professional certification, and trust. The existing nanny service focuses on daytime service and don't always require nanny certifications. As a result, married new parents struggle to find a trust nanny at night. Is this giving a challenge to your partner and you? Kgothatso can help. Kgothatso is a nanny service that offers only 9 nanny options. Kgothatso works when couples are off work and they need a break for themselves. Parents use Kgothatso to reach out the 9 nanny to take care of their children before they sleep. Or they could choose have an in-house overnight nanny, so both of them could sleep well. Kgothatso's value proposition is based on a trustworthy community of nannies parents already know. Also, the INA certification is required to help parents relax and rest easy, knowing that their children are safe. Maintaining a marriage is not an easy thing. This collection of Thesis products facilitate marital satisfaction by design. By creating surprises, showing appreciation often to your partner, and making your partner excited about new experience with you. In order to reach goal here, I staged a public intervention, Pop Love, a series of posters in public spaces for couples to explore, making couples open up having an intimate moment in the public, and remind them of a lovely moment in their life. Let's see it in action. I want to keep reminding couples that strong relationships don't just happen. They take consistent and patient attention, devotion, and love. Falling in love is easy, but staying in love is precious. I would like to thank everyone who supported me through this process, including my family, POD family, subject matter experts, and my friend. Also, I would like to honor the memory of my grandparents. I hope they will be proud of me. Thank you.
So, Crystal, I read recently that the best thing that a couple can do on a Friday night is to watch a master's thesis presentation. Is that a good tip?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, so we have that going with a lot of people out there. Some people in love, some people looking for love. I want to start by asking you, early in the thesis, you had actually concentrated on divorced people, particularly divorced women, right?
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to many divorced women. I think the reason I only spoke to divorced women because at the beginning of my thesis, I was going to explore the area about the social stigma of divorce. And I think for me, I always been thinking that divorce is a very normal thing, especially in our generation. Yep. But once I trying to interview those divorced women, although they have been divorced for years, but they still are so afraid of how the society look at them. Yeah, so at that moment, I just realized, okay, maybe our society until today sometimes still are not friendly to those women. So I mean, I just dedicate to know what's wrong, what's going on behind those stories.
Right, but all towards creating really proactive design interventions to help, right? In some sense, to nurture successful, happy marriages. What are some of the tricks? Like, how do married couples keep their marriage alive?
I think I would say it's about choice, because when I do the initial research, Dr. Garman, in his book, he wrote in our marriage, actually 69% of the marriage conflicts are never be solved. 69%.
Never resolved.
Never.
Wow.
Yeah, and so this means that we will have the same fight or same argument
Over
with
and
our
over?
partner over and over again. Yeah, but actually it's not that scary, because I think we can choose to learn something from those arguments, or we can make an agreement of those issues. Like, we can choose to change our mindset or expectation, something like that. And I also remember one of the interviewees I spoke to, he told me that every day he chooses to love his wife, and his wife also chooses to love him in return. And the biggest insight I learned from him is that loving someone is about choice. Yeah, so
I think also that's lovely. I think also in your work, it might be about interdependence, because when I think about the Cuddle phone charger where you need both phones to charge in order to work, or the bowl where you need two people to actually eat together, and you had talked about some of the research revealing that eating together makes for happier couples. I think that these things are all about interdependence. So I'm hoping that that's a factor as well.
yeah, I think so. Because based on my research and later on I do those design, I just realized that if I can try to make the couples have the same engagement or same conversation, that will keep their relationship alive. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage, live from Johannesburg, South Africa, Kgothatso Lephoko.
Dumelang. Hello. I'm Kgothatso Lephoko, and today I'm delighted to present to you my thesis, Language in, Language out, Natural Language Processing in the Context of Indigenous South African Languages. Among the 59 million South Africans in my country, you might be greeted by hello, molweni, sanbonani, thobela, abusheni, dumelang, goeiemorgen, dumelang, sanbonani, rather salibonani, avwani, and again sanbonani. Of our 11 official languages, 9 are indigenous and spoken by 46 million people, which constitutes 79% of the population. However, this is not reflected in the technology that we use. My work focuses on technology through the lens of natural language processing, or NLP, which is broadly defined as the ways in which computers communicate with and understand human language. Examples of NLP that you may be familiar with include spell checking, machine translation, chatbots, and voice interfaces such as Siri, Bixby, and Alexa. As a digital native, I asked myself the question, to what extent are indigenous language speakers disadvantaged by NLP technologies that exclude their languages? And how might design contribute to the development of more equitable tools? My research involved a review of books, videos, articles, and academic work, an audit of where and how my topic manifests in the world, and interviews with subject matter experts that included NLP technologists, language advocates, and those in the domain of inclusive design. These led me to 3 key insights on NLP and Indigenous South African languages. First, there are insufficient data sets that can be used to teach NLP models due to inadequate historic or current texts, available texts like books or articles. Secondly, there is insufficient involvement of language speakers in the creation of NLP applications. And lastly, the process of developing these NLP models is time-consuming and costly. Thus, resources that are available are allocated to dominant languages like English. If these problems persist, Indigenous language speakers will continue to suffer prejudices that deny them equitable access to technologies which can save them time and money, advance their lives economically, and even help them in emergencies. Thus, my design interventions answer the questions, how might we challenge the status quo, enable participation, document data sets, representative data sets, and elevate Indigenous languages. To highlight the extent of the problem as a means of challenging the status quo, I designed Broken Mic, a campaign that invites South Africans to document the responses that they get when they ask Google questions in their home languages. When they did ask,
Ngiyipheka njani inkukhu?
Here is Pug Rescue.
the answers ranged from hilarious when looking for cooking instructions
Ngiyenza njani mangishiswe ngamanzi ashisayo?
to irrelevant when asking more serious potentially life-saving questions. However, English speakers can ask questions.
Where is the closest hospital?
And find the information they are looking for. These are some comments from the participants who submitted videos. And of note, some of them didn't even expect their languages to be represented. Calling attention to a problem is never enough. In thinking about how to enable participation in creating the required data sets, I was challenged by Yvonne Mbanefu, a quote by Yvonne Mbanefu, who said that the growth of any language is measured by the number of young speakers. The home became a critical location of intervention, and I designed Alfayaka as a suite of Indigenous language learning products aimed at assisting South African parents to reinforce their children's learning of their home languages. Parents such as Mzwake and Rorisang, who between them speak Sepedi and Zulu and want to pass these down to their children. Their biggest challenge, which became my opportunity, was finding learning materials on the market that are available in their home languages. The first product in the Alfayaka suite is an app that contains professionally recorded words in all the official South African languages. Parents can also add words that are unique to their vocabulary or leverage those from the community. These words can contribute to the NLP datasets. For each word, they can also add a unique image and record their pronunciation for their child's reference and association.
Apola. Kija Apola.
These recordings from the app can then be wirelessly transferred to the next product in the suite, which is a battery-operated, interactive alphabet pillow. As the child presses each letter, they hear its associated word as well as how it is used in a sentence. Remaining with alphabets, my next exploration aimed to create a more culturally representative alphabet board. This, as existing designs are Western and modernist in their appearance. I drew inspiration from our many cultures, specifically our unique clothing. Here we see a full alphabet that is inspired by the Venda culture. The intention is that each language will have a unique alphabet board, so that children can see themselves and their culture as they learn their languages. Moving out of the home, how might we encourage Indigenous speaking communities to participate in documenting datasets? NLP researcher Tosin said that the biggest way people can contribute is by using their languages on digital platforms. This prompted me to develop Chomi, a platform that leverages the inherent value in being able to speak and understand one's home language, such that it pays South African Indigenous language speakers to contribute to the creation of NLP datasets. During onboarding, the value proposition would be stated, as well as the features, functionality, and benefits of participating. Lastly, users would select the languages they speak, which is likely to be at least 2, because on average, South Africans speak 2.8 languages. These languages would inform the content on their home screen, which is a feed of questions from community members, businesses, or language researchers that require translation. Users could also ask their own questions, which would be answered by the community. They would be paid for their contributions. As the main requirement is being able to speak your home language, the impact of the app extends beyond data sets to providing an opportunity to earn an income. This ability to earn an income differentiates Chomi from the likes of Google and Facebook, who don't pay participants for the efforts they put into improving their NLP technologies, as they position this work as contributing or volunteering. The efforts above have focused on Indigenous speakers, but I believe that in order to truly elevate Indigenous languages, we need the participation of people from broader languages and cultures. And thus, I designed Pronouns, an app that teaches the pronunciation of Indigenous South African languages using speech recognition and computer vision. The language learner can either search for a word or select one. Here, they've selected Oratile. Thereafter, they see the associated shapes for each syllable in the word. Then, they learn each syllable individually, where they have an opportunity to view an animation that demonstrates the position of both the mouth and the tongue. This would be the case for all the associated sounds. The learner can then hear and see an Indigenous speaker's pronunciation.
Oratile.
When it's their turn to practice, they hold their phone up to their mouth and record themselves saying the word.
Olatile.
An analysis of the recording would reveal the accuracy of their pronunciation and highlight areas of improvement. In teaching the sounds that require more practice, the app would reference words or sounds that are similar to the learner's home language, so that inevitably they improve their pronunciation over time.
Oratile.
This quote by Professor Musoma inspired me to think beyond learning Indigenous languages in a private capacity. I envision partnering with retailers and organizations to provide people with real opportunities to practice Indigenous languages and show their solidarity to a more language-inclusive society, so that in the physical and digital, our languages don't just fight for survival, but thrive. Kia leboga. Thank you.
Hey, Kgothatso, how are you doing?
Hey, Alan, doing good.
Now,
How are you?
did I travel there or did you travel here? I'm on the other side of the stage,
You traveled here.
the Southern Hemisphere. All right. Well, I have to acknowledge in your project, like it really hits like the four things that I think all design projects want to hit: challenge the status quo, enable participation, document, and elevate and celebrate. Really, really wonderful. But I wanted to start off by, you use humor to shine a light on the disastrous state of translation around Zulu translation. It reminded me of an interview with Stephen Fry that just appeared in the New York Times this past weekend. And so the interviewer says, you started out in comedy and gradually moved toward more serious pursuits. But I still wonder, do you think comedy has any access to truth that, say, literature and philosophy don't? And Stephen Fry answers, nearly always. Comedy follows the particular rather than the general. It distrusts abstract statements and therefore distrusts philosophical statements. You test grand ideas against reality, and one of the results is often comedy. And I'm wondering if you can tell me a little bit more, because in the broken mic, one of the quotes you put on screen said, or the participant had said, it's funny as hell, but Siri is a person, a white person. We got to manage expectations.
Mm-hmm. So I think that humor is quite a disarming way to draw people in to a topic, because everybody can laugh at how ridiculous, the answers are, irrespective of whether they ask them or not. And I think because of that, one can then think about, okay, what other questions are being asked and what answers are then being received.
Right.
Yeah. And then I suppose the serious aspect of this is the perception of technology, in that that particular user perceived technology to have a race, the perceived race of technology being a white person, and then that also affecting how they relate to the technology and what they can expect from it. So,
Right. So there's the fact of the bias in technology, and there's also the outward, like, I guess, almost the literal appearance of it, sound appearance in this case.
yeah.
Interesting. I wanted to ask you about Alpha Yaka. If you can just tell us a little bit more about some of the participant comments while we're on the subject of comments.
Oh, okay. So one thing that I was unsure about when I was designing the app was the functionality of having parents record their pronunciation of the app, and their pronunciation of words on the app rather.
Right.
And when I asked one of the parents about this, she was saying that, the child has been associating with my voice in this case, or in the case of the parents, since before they were born. And so having her voice on the app could, further reinforce her child's learning because her voice is familiar to them. Yeah, so that was quite profound for me, because it's almost as though, like, the parent, this voice that you have been associating to literally, your whole life, is then also a teacher in the sense of learning through the app.
That's really beautiful. And then moving quickly to the third project, or the fourth project, Chomi. And I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about the business model, because here you're actually paying contributors, which is, of course, fantastic.
So the thinking and the work around where the money would come from would be licensing that the money would come from licensing fees that would be charged to businesses who will use the Chomi platform.
And I can imagine maybe larger businesses, a different fee schedule than smaller businesses. I was also wondering if these can be used to smarten up chatbots, where, when you go to often a lot of websites right now, can I help you? It's a chatbot. If the chatbot can't understand you, that's going to be, so much worse. Likely these companies would be willing to pay to license the Chomi data sets to better serve their customers, or to better, in some sense, like onboard customers.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned around licensing fees. So there would be, I think, two pricing models, the one being a commercial licensing fee, and then also for research purposes, having a non-commercial licensing fee, so that institutions, or maybe even NGOs who may not necessarily have the financial the finances, the financial resources, yes, that they could then still use the model to improve the services that they offer, which often help uplift the poor and the destitute, and those who are in need.
Really refers back so well to your original mission. I can imagine, I remember reading, like, in the early days of Google, that there was this big sign up at Google headquarters, like in the end, in the sort of the reception area, of like live, what people were Googling, like, that second around the earth, I guess, when Google was like much smaller. I can imagine maybe a sign in the Chomi headquarters, maybe that's something to aspire to.
Yes, absolutely.
And then you get really big, and there'll be Chomi headquarters, all over the world for Indigenous languages all over the place. Kgothatso, thank you so much.
Thank you, Alan.
Please welcome to the stage our next presenter, Xiaohan Miao.
Hello everyone, my name is Xiaohan Miao. First of all, I would like to ask, have you ever heard these words from your current or past partner? You're so sensitive. Why can't you look like her? You're making a big deal out of nothing. When these sorts of comments are made often enough, they form a pattern of what is known as emotional abuse. Emotional abuse is a form of harm that uses feelings and words to control and manipulate others by embarrassing, shaming, and blaming them. It can happen in any aspects of our lives. It's especially prevalent in relationship settings. It can lead to psychological trauma, including depression, anxiety, PTSD, and low self-confidence. According to a 2012 study, 40% of women have experienced emotional violence from their partner. By contrast, 32% of men have experienced the same. Today, I'm going to present my thesis, Out from Control, Design Interventions Around Emotional Abuse. I began by researching books related to emotional abuse. Next, I conducted interviews with subject matter experts in the field of psychology and legal studies. This allowed me to begin charting emotional abuse into a system map. As I did, I started to comprehend its complexity. Everything from culture and to the legal system can have a major influence on the lasting effects of and recovery from emotional abuse. Therefore, I decided to zero in on a personal aspect of the problem, an individual woman's journey. For my thesis, I mapped out the steps that an individual takes after being emotionally abused. The first step is awareness. I learned from my research that many women who are being emotionally abused come to therapy without knowing they are being abused. They often believe that they themselves are the problem in their relationship. With this concern in mind, I posed the question, how might we help women become aware of emotional abuse? Numerous articles about emotional abuse can be found online, but I wanted to take it a step further. Instead of simply reading those articles, what if women could directly engage with the information? My first project is an immersive online experience, Spy Mission, A Date with Ali. Using the model of interactive training videos, Spy Mission asks the audience to engage with and learn from a fictional conversation. This informs people of the wide spectrum of emotional abuse and how hard to identify they can be sometimes. To enhance the user experience, the elements of a role-playing game are embedded in the design, which includes an imagined scenario and atmosphere. Participants can choose how to respond to the conversation. After finishing the session, participants receive an information card. The card lists phrases that are examples of emotional abuse. I was able to collect feedback from various users. One user's insight struck me particular. I have no problem understanding the abusive words Ali said to me, but if it were my partner, it would be harder to tell because I trust them. I learned that women often blame and attack themselves when emotional abuse happens. In many cases, that's exactly what the abuser wants them to feel. However, women have to understand that they are not the problem. This leads to my second step, validation. How might we help women validate the negative feelings they come to develop in association with their emotional abuse? I use a speculative design approach to create a physical product that detects emotionally abusive words. Since the visual indicator is designed to be used at home as a covert filter that a victim can allow to run in the background without fearing that it will be detected by the abuser. The shape of sense is inspired by a conventional lamp disguising its actual function. It has an AI sensor that includes a database of thousands of abusive words and phrases. When first turned on, the light glows with a warm tone to indicate that no abusive words have been detected. Once abusive words and phrases are detected, the light turns into a cool tone, indicating to the user that the situation could be emotionally harmful. We will tell our users you can confirm and validate your feelings with sense. But in public advertising, sense would provide very little information about the product's actual function. The advertising slogan would simply read, "It's just a lamp." The next step is healing. When I talked to Dr. Sun during my research, she told me that in order to heal, we have to shift the focus from others to us, start to understand what we want and need. Therefore, how might we help women to process their experiences and engage in self-care? While looking at existing self-care tools, which include various features and levels of engagement, I discovered that there is a gap between journaling and effective, customized self-care activities. I began to wonder how I could connect journaling and self-care activities and to make them more personalized and helpful. And then I came up with Soul, a journaling app that can give women self-care recommendations that are tailored to their particular needs. To create journal entries, users can choose from two functions, one that allows them to record entries through voice, and another that allows them to type. A significant function of this app is that it has word recognition. It analyzes a user's journal by highlighting words related to emotions and feelings, and turn those words into a word cloud. The word cloud helps users to visualize their feelings and experiences. Soul also recommends self-care activities based on the most repeated words in the word cloud. In the example you see here, the user's most common emotion is anger, followed by sadness and anxiety. Taking these words into account, the app recommends she make herself a cup of tea, as tea contains an amino acid that helps the human body to balance mood. In this way, the user not only learns reliable and scientifically proven strategies for combating her psychological state, but is slowly made more self-reliant in terms of turning to herself to soothe and heal. During user testing, one test subject offered me the following feedback. The self-care activities felt pretty random. When I'm sad, I just want to be alone and do nothing. Such feedback helps the app's AI to iterate its user's response and learn about the greater or lesser effectiveness of particular suggestions. The result is that the app essentially gets to know its user and gradually makes more personalized activity suggestions. The next step is support. How might we support and build community among women who have experienced emotional abuse? The subject matter expert Dr. Gao said, the best way to support them is to be there, listen, and encourage them. What if we could bring women with similar experiences together to share stories and to engage in peer support? This inspired me to envision Yumi, an app for women to share their experiences with each other. Yumi provides an open and safe space for women to talk about their experiences and offers peer support based on their specific needs. When a user logs in, she begins by answering a questionnaire so that they can be matched with another woman with a similar experience. After being matched, the peers can chat with each other and talk about the problems they're concerned about. Let's follow the journey of a user named Vicky. Vicky is confused about her relationship. Her boyfriend always gets angry with her for no reason. She goes on to Yumi and starts to chat about her concerns with a friend she was matched with. Her friend on Yumi empathizes with her. Vicky instantly feels she has been listened to and come to understand that her boyfriend's response are not her fault, and that the problem resides in him, not her. With Yumi, I imagine a safe and open space for women to talk about their hurt and pain without fear of judgment. After exploring these 4 steps in the journey towards healing from emotional abuse through 4 different design solutions, I realized that countless factors are affecting emotional abuse, and these factors must also be addressed. Additionally, not only women, but also men, children, and elderly people can be victims of emotional abuse. An individual's journey is always personal, but it is very often also a reflection of something larger, such as inequality within a relationship, a problem within the community, or harmful cultural beliefs. I would like to encourage everyone to get involved, as ending abuse requires everyone's help. I would like to thank all the POD faculty members, my friends, my classmates, and my family of their support, the love, and the help throughout this year. Thank you.
Xiaohan, thank you. And thank you for taking on a subject that is so challenging. You know, it's interesting, we had a project earlier that started off around divorce and ended up with relationships. Your project actually started off, I think, in September around breakups, right?
Yes.
Maybe talk a little bit about the evolution from that to this.
Yeah. Actually, last year I started off the topic on romantic relationship breakups, and at that time I didn't even know the term emotional abuse. So while I was researching on the breakups, I did a user survey trying to find some opportunities on that area, and I saw a pattern of a lot of women saying that they wish they could have loved themselves more or be more self-aware in the situation. In the relationship, and along with my research, the term emotional abuse came across to me, and it just really resonated with me. I'm not saying that like their cause is emotional abuse, but I just feel like I really need to work on this topic and to use design as a tool to address this issue.
Yeah, and as a centering device for the whole work. Wonderful, yeah. Thank you. I love the sense lamp. And one of the things that I really love about it is the word that you used is covert. I was going to say inconspicuous, but you know, we've had some projects like this in the past, and I know of some, particularly around domestic abuse, of clandestinely getting information inside of tampon boxes, other ways of getting information into the home where stereotypically the husband or the man does not see it. Wouldn't see it. Talk a little bit about that, because in some sense, Yumi is a little similar where you're matched with someone. It's anonymous, but you're actually with someone who can provide support, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think safety is one of the biggest concern with designing for violence and abuse. And I think for the product Sense, we spend a lot of time working on the design decisions. I remember that we were discussing the color choice of the lights. And also in the product design class with Sinclair, we also discussed a lot about the shape.
Right, the form.
Yeah, like how to make it subtle for users and for both people, and how to make users to feel safe to use it. And yeah, I think the same for Yumi. Like the online platform provides more open, but also an opportunity for them to finding a way to escape, and also I think there's a lot of opportunity in that area too. So yeah, so that's why I wanted to work on that.
Well, the work definitely covers a broad continuum of design instantiations, expressions, product services, platforms. Thanks so much, Xiaohan.
Yeah, thank you, Alan.
Please welcome our next presenter to the stage, Shu-Yi Wang.
Hi everyone, I'm Shui Wang. Today I'm gonna present my thesis, Buying Possibilities, the double edge of blind box culture. First, I want to ask you guys, do you know what is blind box? Yeah, actually everyone knows that. Blind box is not a new concept, it's a buying mechanism, and you won't know what you are getting. And in recent years, new blind boxes are made into blind bags, and also blind box vinyl toys, even food. Blind box has become so popular in Japan and China, and are increasingly popular in the United States as well. Why? Because people want to be surprised. Will Hurt said, life is hard, life is difficult. Life is going to punch you in the gut. So, we need surprise in our lives because we live in a complex world. Based on that, I experienced blind box shopping as my part of research. Here is what I learned. There are too many attractive blind box toys in the store, and people are always drawn to the characters they like the most. 70% of people cannot help themselves and continue buying until they get the figure they actually want. And when they get the one they want, they will feel excited and motivated. Obviously, the blind box can have a positive influence on a buyer's state of mind and can really motivate people to try new things. And this is really great because it can help people move outside of their comfort zones. You know, nowadays, the blind box pops up everywhere. It can be a good way to motivate kids. I interviewed a lot of blind box experts in order to learn more about the relationship of blind box and the kids. Reyes said, children are the most loyal fans of blind box, and they are crazy about the joy of surprises. The blind box researcher said, in the group of blind box lovers, I found more than half of children are wearing eyeglasses. And the data shows that more and more children are getting myopia, which is a surprising and serious problem. So, I want to improve how kids' eyesight is tested by making the test less stressful and more fun. Now let me show you the concept of eye pop. As part of the process of the vision test, I add the element of picking the blind boxes, which can surprise children and keep them relaxed. And when you come into the store, you have to pick a blind box eye patch first. This is an eye patch package, and the following 8 figures will appear on the patch. They also include a hidden surprise, which further incentivizes the whole idea of blind box. So you all have the opportunity to get it. Put on your eye patch and go to the vision testing room. The mechanism, which includes surprise and rewards, has a great impact. And we apply the same idea to help people to use their phone less. More and more, people just couldn't put on their phones. They're always staring at their phones, refreshing their feeds, and not paying attention to anyone else. When you think about it, a mobile phone is a lot like an abstract digital blind box. For example, on Instagram, people constantly refresh to see what new messages, likes, and posts might appear. Because people are curious about what's going to show up next. Every refresh is to surprise of other people's posts. But Instagram isn't the only online portal that offers a blind box experience. Think about the constant update of news stories on the news sites and Twitter, or the infinite amount of videos to see on YouTube and TikTok. Real-time updated news is yet another manifestation of how the desire for a steady stream of dopamine-inducing information satisfies user desires. So, in order to help people decrease their phone addiction, I use a blind box mechanism to design a board game called Six Magicians. Board games are always a great way to help people concentrate while also bringing them together. In Six Magicians, everything about the game is creating surprise. Let's take a look. Thank you for watching. So during my research, I found distinct pros and cons of blind box. Under the whole blind box mechanism, the impulsive buying phenomenon works like this. Users will be attracted by the unknown and its allure. This then inspires desire and curiosity, which eventually leads to the decision to make a purchase. In the end, however, one might be tempted to buy too many blind boxes because the desire has grown too great. Although the blind box can lead to a positive surprise and a moment of happiness, it can also lead to a person who has become obsessed to buy too many knickknacks at home. Revaluing items at home is my next goal because some people are pack rats and their collections take over their lives. So, in trying to combat impulsive and obsessive consumption, I have created a way of revaluing items with a positive blind box mechanism. So here, I have envisioned the service and experience design called blind box trading. This allows users to revalue items by putting them back into a blind box and making them back into a surprise for someone else. It's a system of blind box gifting to another person rather than oneself. First, I encourage my user to find something they don't want but that is still valuable and in good condition. Then they can create their own blind box bag and put their blind box in front of the door. The trader will come by and pick their blind box, trade them readily.
Probably some candies.
Chocolate. Okay. A flashcard with the rock music. You see?
Keychain.
Some soft stuff you need. Let me just open it.
Open it.
Let's open it.
Take it.
Wow, it's the hair oil.
Okay, this is some noodles. And this one is another noodles.
Okay, so here is some really meaningful feedback. Creating one's own blind box makes the user proud. The act of trading is valuable and helps to curb impulsive buying behavior and nudges users towards more traditional buying and gifting system. A new variation of this type of blind box trading is to allow a person with whom you are not acquainted to hide in your apartment as a creative way of connecting with new people. So in the process, I also have discovered that blind box can actually help people to establish real-life interpersonal communications. And here's my own experience. Every time when the professor sends us to different breakout rooms, I feel nervous, pumped, but I always get surprised when I get to know who my partner is, and I feel especially motivated to talk with them about the predetermined topic, which is an automatic icebreaker. So that's a good way to build connection. More and more people have become apathetic about the work and risk involved in taking the time and exposing oneself when trying to get to know someone new. Due to the lack of communication, they do not know how to find a topic, start their conversations. And holidays trying to provide the best automatic backdrop for an easy conversation starter. And this is Moni, using the blind box mechanism to create a random chat room to surprise people during the holiday via the digital app. And Moni helps people to match another registered user who has the same birth date somewhere in the world. And in holidays atmosphere, the surprise brought by the blind box allows people to have more topics to start off a conversation. According to the study of psychology, 75% of people have more intimacy and share common living habits with their partners who have the same birth date. You know, surprises put people in a good mood to communicate with others, helping them promote trust and building better relationships. Blind box mechanism can motivate and inspire kids. Also can help people gather together to use their phone less. When we use surprise to combat the addiction and impulsive buying behavior, it can also help people build connections. Life will never be hard for someone who can be surprised and motivated. I'm excited to have given you a deeper look into blind box culture, and I hope that you discover new mysteries every day of your life. Thank you.
Shri, thank you.
Thank you.
So I was aware of blind box phenomenon, and I always thought it was a very positive and very joyful thing. And when you had said that there's like a double-edged sword to blind box, it really, really threw me. And when you gave the example of Instagram, I was just like, oh, wow, yes, I am pulling this to refresh to get a shot of dopamine. And while we're on pull to refresh, I want to call out Lauren Brichter, who actually invented pull to refresh, well documented on an app called Tweety that was then bought by Twitter. Anyway, pull to refresh and every mimic of it is really this thing that we become quite addicted to. And so I am interested in how you were able to move from this project that started off in just such a joyful place to a like, well, hold on place.
Yeah, actually that's a quite interesting experience, because I got a lot of feedback. They have already said, blind box, no way, I will never get in touch with this kind of area because that's so dangerous, everything is invisible. And yeah, if I get something I don't want, how can I like to deal with this shit? And I say, yeah, but actually like the blind box is used everywhere. That's a trend, right? And Instagram see that you have already like fall in love that. So actually like everyone like jumped into the travel blind box. And that is not a bad thing because sometimes like we use our phones that give us some enjoy time. So
but we have to remember to get off our phone.
Yes. Right. Yeah. So I don't say that, my project that is to let you stop using your phones. I just wanted to let you focus that, okay, we have to use our phone less, keep a balance between this. Yeah.
Right. I want to jump into blind box trading project because I am completely in love with this project. And I think I want to ask you, like, what were some of you just showed a snippet of video of the guy getting noodles and then noodles again. What were some of the unusual products or objects? You used a beautiful term to revalue items. I wanted to just call that out because I think that that's so nice. What were some of the more unusual, maybe even funny or surprising objects that people packed up in their blind box trading?
Yeah. So actually, I won't know like people gonna put something in their blind box, right? I'm gonna record like the user when they get the blind box. And one guy wrote down the secret letter in the blind box, and he designed the blind box so gorgeous, so fancy. Yeah, and one from a user, when he got it, and he said, "Wow, what's that? Maybe a gossip?" And when he opened that, oh my God, that's a midterm exam. And somebody just put midterm exam into the blind box. Yeah, blind box make us like get a lot of shit. And we want to just give shit to other people. And then I get like more worse thing. I don't want to remember the time when I'm in school and get a very bad exam.
Well, I was going to ask actually if it was a midterm exam with a good grade or a bad grade.
That's an empty one. So just, the user definitely want another one to write that.
Okay, a blank
Yeah.
one. All right, well, we don't have grades in this program, but maybe we can give Shuyi an A for this project, for this presentation. All right. Thanks, Shuyi.
Thank you.
Please welcome our next presenter to the stage, Karan Bansal.
Hi everyone, thank you all for being here. My name is Karan Bansal, and today I'm going to present my thesis, Overwhelmed, that explores work, play, time, and design. My journey with time began when I was 7 years old. The timetable on the right was one of my first attempts to organize myself with time. But my second journey began when a friend of mine asked me for a game of chess, to which I replied, I don't have time. He instantly replied, you mean you don't prioritize our game of chess, right? As an engineer, I'd encountered time in various complexities, all that were external and absolute, over which I had no control. But this was the first moment that I encountered time as something personal, something over which I had a direct choice. Today, despite being surrounded by time in all the activities we do, the obvious understanding of time as choice is not so obvious. Roughly 80% American knowledge workers feel they don't have time, and they fail to utilize 700 million vacation days each year. Researchers refer to this state as time poverty, where the person lacks the discretionary time required for social and human capital activities. But this can also be read as captivity, where the person lacks the free will required to spend their time the way they want to, since the alternative may result in consequences. So if time is a matter of freedom, how might design interventions reframe our relationship with time towards that of choice? I began my secondary research by seeing time through various lenses like horology, philosophy, and quantum mechanics, and engaging with subject matter experts in fields like organizational psychology, neurology, and media studies. Horologically, I learned that the clock is a designed object of power. It originated from wayfinding that helped sailors estimate the distance traveled based on the change in location of the stars, and found its use on land by those in power to help synchronize people's actions. With the advent of standardization of labor during industrialization, it homogenized for masses the narrative of how they're supposed to spend their time, in effect colonizing their choice. Neurologically, I discovered that time is a construct of the brain. The way our brain measures change depends on our senses, experiences, and ability to retain memory, making it very subjective. This difference explained the conflict in experience of passing of time during the pandemic. To understand how design might help make visible the difference between clock time and experience time, I began with a speculative time perception dilation kit. Timescape changes various perceptions of time like sequence, direction, change, and duration. It consists of injectable proteins that alter the brain's neural plasticity. So for example, the duration shot would increase the memories that are being registered in the brain, causing an illusion of a slow experience of time, similar to those of psychedelics. This project was aimed to provoke a conversation about the differences between clock time and our subjective experience of time. While I started researching about choice, Professor Musab Iqbal elucidated that our choice is not only a matter of individual concern, but just like habits, it is more responsive to environmental factors. So beyond the notions of the way we choose, there are ecological forces that are co-creating our interfaces of choice with life. Therefore, my thesis focuses on how our choice of how we spend our time looks like in our various environments of digital lives, work lives, and personal lives. Beginning with our choice in our digital lives, today we're constantly connected to the world through our phones. And this constant connectivity leads to an increase in interruptions, causing us to switch between our activities. On average, a worker gets interrupted 56 times during a day, 80% of which are trivial. And current solutions of turning notifications off are not an option. In the age of information economy, without connectivity, there lingers a constant fear of missing out on things. How might we then allow the individual to have greater control over their attention ecology without letting them face their fear of missing out? To learn more about this, I hosted an online co-creation workshop to map out the problem needs. I also set up notification trackers in participants' phones for a workday, where we analyzed the notifications based on their distribution, content, and the user's context, and synthesized that it wasn't information overload, but a failure to filter it and align it with its context. And this insight led me to Unwind, an iOS feature that helps people manage their notifications. It allows the user to do two things. One, selectively filter out-of-context notifications based on the source of notification using Apple's push notification service and the content of the notification using artificial intelligence. And second, it allows them to synchronize them based on their desired context like time, location, and activity by integrating with the Internet of Things and third-party integrations. So if the user wanted to block all work notifications when they get home, except the ones that are urgent from their team, they could simply call Siri.
Hey Siri, disable all work notifications when I get home.
On it. Okay. I'll pause notifications from these apps when you reach home.
On second thought, allow urgent notifications from my team.
Okay. I'll allow urgent notifications from R&D group.
And here's what the experience looks like. Without Unwind, the user is notified intermittently whenever they receive a notification. With Unwind, the user is notified only when urgent messages that have a call to action or direct mention to the user are received. All other notifications are delivered silently and can be accessed when the phone is unlocked. What you just saw was just one of the conversational flows amongst all the possible permutations and combinations that you could ask Siri to do for you. Now, looking at the state of choice in our workplace, in our work culture, time is money. Being busy and having no time is considered a sign of material success. We are obsessed with getting things done in the least possible time. Adam Grant, a leading organizational psychologist, highlights that the problem with this obsession is that it adds a layer of abstraction over our choices, making us lose focus on the subjectivity of things. To counter this, he outlines 3 skills that are core to managing our choices: awareness, arrangement, and adaptation, and that in the workplace, these skills can be cultivated with direct interventions like materializing our choices, mapping out the cause and effect between events, and visually demarcating priorities. So I started exploring tactile ways in which these interventions may manifest, and this iteration led me to Phaser. Phaser is a personal productivity tool that helps materialize tasks and allows the user to transform their conceptual workload into actionable, context-sensitive flow. It consists of colored sets of dry erase writable surfaces. Each color represents the categories of tasks. So for example, they could be finance, analytics, and legal, or personal, professional, or social. Each category contains 3 shapes, where the number of peaks denote the distinct priorities of work. These tasks attach magnetically to the structure, and the retractable cords allow the user to have a visual representation of the flow of events. By having a self-initiated, tactile, and visual representation of their tasks, flows, and priorities, Phaser encourages the users to be more subjective about their choices. Now, looking at the state of choice in our homes, today, the pandemic has reduced the range and depth of distinctions between the boundaries of work and home. In the book 24/7, Jonathan Crary outlines that this lack of demarcation externalizes our agency. Even in the absence of a direct compulsion, we choose to do what we are told to do. How can we then restore our agency in our personal spaces? Does choice without an external agency even exist? While Alex and Liz were talking about chasing rabbit holes during one of the interviews, did I realize that play is the ultimate form of choice. Play is what one wants to do versus what one is obliged to do. The last two projects I'd like to show you today are built on this insight and designed to create cultures of play. First, to create a culture of active form of play, I envisioned Silly. Silly is an employer-sponsored subscription box service that allows its users to discover and subscribe to various play activities based on their nostalgia, play personality, and intention of play. It also allows users to engage with fellow playmates by challenging each other and encouraging them to make play a part of their daily routine. Silly's vision is to make play as the default state of being. The second project is more of an enforced attempt towards play. Hiatus is an iOS utility that subverts the productive capabilities of our phones and replaces them with fun counterparts during non-work hours. It can be accessed within the settings under a new section where, once enabled, the user can customize their non-working hours and then select the apps they would like to get replaced. Now, when it's end of work time, Hiatus replaces the clock on the lock screen with fun expressions of time. Each instance the user unlocks the phone, they get new expressions for time based on their fun activities. On the home screen, Hiatus hides all work-related apps in the app library and replaces them with fun versions. So for example, Zoom is replaced with House Party. Mail is replaced with Yo. Stocks is replaced with Breathe. And Trello is replaced with Solitaire, and so on. And at the beginning of work next day, Hiatus returns the interface back to the boring normal. If there is one thing that I would like you all to take from these products of design, it's that time is choice. It's what we choose to do with it. I would like to thank you all for choosing to be here. And I'd like to thank so many people without whom this work would not have been possible. My family back in India, here in Jersey City and in Boston, my POD family, Alan, Jennifer, Andrew, my friends, my thesis faculty, Christina, Marco, Elspeth, and all the alumni and users and guests and all those without whom this would not have been taken shape. Thank you all.
All right, how many people want Hiatus? Type in the chat, I want Hiatus. I just love that project so much.
Oh, thank you.
So I think we're going to get a lot of demand for that. So this project started off, you had a weekly poetry sharing or reading group. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so initially when I was exploring the language of time, I got introduced to a poetry session by one of my friends, and that happened to be only because of COVID. Otherwise it would have not been accessible. So, and luckily, I think for 2 months, the poems that we were reading were about time.
Mm-hmm.
So, those were like a very great insight about me on kind of like deconstructing how language shapes our sense of time and like adds like kind of a model of how time is.
You use a term state of choice, and you come back to that repeatedly. And I don't know when this insight happened, where the thing crystallized around this idea that time is choice. Because again, there was a lot of exploration over the course of a year, but you make it so crystal clear now that it's really about increasing agency, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So to me, I mean, like one of the first moments I had was when my friend kind of actually rephrased it. And then when I engaged in these poetry sessions and started reading about Heidegger's Time and Being, it's during like one of those kind of moments and sessions that it really like became clear that, you know, I'm not wasting my time, I'm wasting myself.
Right.
And that it's about what I choose to do.
Oh no, now I'm sad. I'm not wasting my time, I'm wasting myself.
Yeah.
I remember I was doing a local neighborhood walk, and the leader had asked, you know, a bunch of it asked me if I was involved in local politics, and I said, no, I don't have the time. And he said, no, you don't make the time.
Yeah.
And it was just like chastised, like your original friend over playing chess.
Yeah.
Did you take up chess in the end?
Yeah, I was actually avoiding it because I always lost with him. So yeah, that's the backstory of it.
Right, you always want to play with someone who's just a little bit better than you.
Yeah.
There's also another term, the state of choice really grabbed me. There's another term that you use in here, attention residue.
Yeah.
Can you tell us just a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so the way we like naturally work, we can't like, I mean, we cannot detach completely. There's something kind of still going on in the back of our minds. So attuning to something, like still, like you're not giving in the full resources, or you're still not in that state of flow, what researchers call it. So it's that attention residue is about, you know, like having those things in the back of your mind that are still kind of consuming your resources, and that kind of affects like performance. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think you got everybody's full attention today, Cuddle.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Please welcome our next presenter to the stage, Wufeng Peng.
Hi everyone, I'm Wufeng Peng. I'm glad to present my thesis with you today. My thesis topic is disintermediation and design, customers, producers, and the platform. First, let me explain what disintermediation means in this context. Due to the maturity of search engine and the digital platform and other technology, we are experiencing the high information transparency about our daily life today. Based on this trend, producer could understand the needs of customers accurately, while the customer will have a better understanding of their self-needs. So the question is, do they need the intermediation such as R&D, marketing, and the distributor anymore, if they can be connected directly and drive each other? And what would their relationship be like? Through reading books, I explore the idea about how we can reimagine value based on the community collaboration. Also, through the interviews with the subject matter experts from different industries, I discussed this trend from their perspective with three main topics: student career planning, food, and manufacturing. Today, I would like to use food as a typical example to explain the idea. Because of the pandemic, part of the chefs stayed back at home due to the shutdown of the restaurants. Their service transferred to takeaway food. More and more people started to cook and order food at home. Data indicates that in 2020, more than 55 million Americans used delivery app, which is a 25% increase since the previous year. And then I was wondering, why can't we just connect people with the customers and the people who can cook from the same building? And that's how the idea of Neighbor Chef came up. Neighbor Chef is a takeaway food service provided by your neighbor from the same building. Let's go through the user journey together. First, pick a chef from the apartment. After you order food from the chef, customer can learn a little bit more about your neighbor by reading the chef's story. Then, the chef can go to the nearest supermarket based on the scheduled time and pick up the food with cooking materials. After chef goes back to home, he will start cooking and notify the customer when it is done. Then the customer can pick up the food from the chef and complete the order. With Neighbor Chef, you could enjoy the taste of mom and dad from your building without the delivery man, and pick up your food without waiting time. Based on my further research, I found a similar platform called Go Home to Eat in China, which connects customers with people who have time to cook at home and deliver by the third party. From its user comments, we can see that the direct connection between the customers and the home cook gave them the opportunity to be who they are as human, instead of just a business activity. However, this service went offline in 2020 due to the following reasons. For delivery person, the pickup address is too random to find, which might cause the late delivery. And for the home cook, they don't have food production license, and it's difficult to regulate their food sources and the cooking environment, which might cause the food safety problem. From this case study, I realized that when it comes to the disintermediated relationship, a balance is needed between the regulation and the freedom. If the relationship is too close to regulation, it tends to be monopoly and despotism, leaves no room for customer to choose. While it comes too close to freedom, it tends to be a black market, which could have a bad impact to society. And that's why a balance point is needed to maximize the benefits for both the customers and the producer. Therefore, I added a second floor public cooking space as a regulation for Neighbor Chef. With a pickup window on the first floor. And here is how it looks like. Through the collaboration with the apartment, customers and the home cook could meet each other's needs without concerning the factors such as cooking environment, food sources, and the production license. So the service can expand to the neighboring building, and the people can order food from each other with a clear instruction. People can order food from the popular cook in the neighborhood and pick up easily. After they arrived at the pickup window outside of an apartment, by scanning the QR code, customer can pick up their food without disturbing the apartment residents. From peer-to-peer within the building to the collaboration with apartment, what would this relationship be for the restaurant in a larger scale? Noted by the design academic and author Ezio Manzini, when there is no room for choice because the solution is dictated by the strong social conventions and the technological constraints, there is no design. In China, half of the office workers order takeout food at companies every day, and nearly 80% of them are worrying about the food safety problem. For the current solution, Chinese government regulated 2 giant takeaway food platforms due to their food safety problem. And for the office worker, they can only choose the high-rating restaurants with good reviews. However, for the restaurant with a high rating and a large amount of order every day, it was found many problems during the cooking and the management process. Then I was wondering, why does the relationship between customer and the restaurant still remain in one-way service when they could actually have a more transparent and trusted relationship? Introducing the New Menu. New Menu is a restaurant chain that provides monthly changeable menu based on its nearby community's requirements. Here is how it works. First, pick a new menu restaurant nearby. Then, you can order from the current menu or join as a community member for recipe discussion. After that, vote for the next month's recipe based on your own preference. The hypothesis is that through a closer communication with new menu restaurant, customer can acquire the information from menu decision, material sources, cooking environment, to inventory management, which enable them the information transparency. So the restaurant can build a trusted relationship with the customers and meet their needs accurately. From the new menu, we can see that this collaborative relationship could turn the one-way service, for example, the standardized profit-oriented production, to a more equal and transparent relationship that can reveal the real needs of customers and at the same time still be profitable for the service provider. Based on the user testing, I realized that not everyone would like to decide what they are provided from the restaurant as a community. Therefore, the customer acquisition strategy will start with the group of foodie and then try to raise the awareness of the larger group and let them know that they have option to choose. Through my further thinking, I realized that it is not about a customizable menu, but more about a collaborative relationship that enables a better option. From the book Design with Society, author Scott Boyston indicates that the emphasis on design should not be constrained to those who have power to access, but should also enable those with the least are provided the means through design. So the question is, when the cost of design skills and offering become low enough to cover more people, will the marginalized group also have option to choose what they are provided? Or will they have enough room to create for themselves when they are able to? Considering the sustainability, I designed a package reuse service for these different scales of food services. And here is how it works. Based on these surveys, I iterated the package to a simpler form and improved structure for food storage. Also, it can be disassembled and folded for the reuse bins collection. Considering different stakeholders' motivations, for the restaurant, they could choose the subscription service from the click box without buying the package. For the customers, there will be a package deposit within the food order to motivate them to return the package in time. To summarize, if there are new relationships based on food production, what the relationship would be when we can make objects as easily as food through 3D printing in the future, and what is the balance point between the regulation and the freedom for making objects. How the role of school will change when students can be taught by professional workers directly. Will there be a new collaborative relationship between the enterprises, schools, and the students that can benefit them all? Thank you all for being here today. I would like to thank my family, the POD family, and all other people for helping me get here.
All right. Hey, Yufeng, thank you so much. So one of the least romantic definitions of design I've ever heard is that design is a choice of compromises, which just really, really makes me sad. But when I look at your presentation and I see how you're working with the continuums, I have a much nicer view of how this is so much about the balance. Those continuums use the terms regulation and freedom, but there's other kinds of things that happen in there. Maybe you can talk to us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think for the regulation, it definitely could lead to the more efficient society. But it also depends on like where it's aiming for. Like for example, if the goal of the service or company is to expand endlessly, then the regulation, for example, to have more market share and to expand to the different industry. And so their regulation will also have the similar goal, which might cause the exploitation.
Yeah.
And so I think the point is to find a balance between the relationship and it's more about a collaborative relationship and based on the shared value.
Yeah, you talk about bringing participation into it. I mean, even Ezio Manzini, if there's no choice and agency, then there's no design. And you've covered just a lot of really beautiful spots in this territory. It made me really think much more broadly about DIY, about circular economy, about open source. And this project started with some furniture, right? But actually, how did you get into this whole topic?
Yeah, so I think it also related to the manufacturing because I had an experience of product design,
right,
like physical product. And I found that it really depends on the scale of economy to allow the manufacturer to make money. So I think it's for now it depends on the way how we produce. But if in the future, like we have a new way to produce, to a smaller scale, and that will be different and still be profitable.
Right, but more opportunities for people to be a part of it.
And so I think that will change the massive production right now.
I really want Neighbor Chef. Do you want Neighbor Chef? Did you design the platform that you wish you had in your apartment?
Yeah, I think that's the needs, especially in the pandemic situation.
Should we go ask one of our neighbors to cook something up and then we'll go now? Go and eat?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Yufeng.
Thank you.
Please welcome our next presenter to the stage, Bethany Fraunhofer.
Most classes in U.S. public schools follow what is called the factory model. This means that students are being trained to do paperwork, repetitive tasks, and sit still for long periods of time in a way that was necessary for training factory workers during the Industrial Revolution. I have always felt that this model was flawed since I was very young, especially as a homeschooled student who experienced school from an outside perspective. Hello, my name is Bethany Fraunhofer, and I'd like to introduce you to my thesis, The Uncommon Core, a design exploration of active education for kinesthetic learners. As I began my thesis journey, I started my research by looking at resources from authors who have experimented with alternative schooling models. I also talked to a variety of education experts working inside and outside traditional classrooms. When I was speaking with Anne-Marie Thomas, something about her story didn't add up for me. Early in our conversation, she said, "The public school counselor told my parents that I wasn't good at math and science," but then later on talked about doing her undergraduate degree in engineering at MIT, as well as talking about all of the engineering work that she's done since. For this highly successful engineering professional to be told in her early school years that she was bad at math and science, there must be a major flaw with the system that she was in. This insight led me to do some research around learning methods and styles, where I discovered the framework of VARK, which stands for visual, oral, read-write, and kinesthetic. In this framework, kinesthetic learning refers to the style of learning that happens when students are doing hands-on work, referencing real-life examples, and having lived experiences. About 22.8% of people in the US are identified as solely kinesthetic learners, and an additional 64.3% have kinesthetic learning tendencies. However, most classrooms are best formatted for read-write and visual learners, due to the convenience and the tradition of these models. Because of this, kinesthetic learners often struggle in these settings and are labeled as disruptive or sometimes misdiagnosed with learning disabilities. After synthesizing all of my research, I developed the hypothesis that learning tools and methods targeted at kinesthetic learners will increase the educational success of these learners and can benefit students of all learning types. My work falls primarily into two categories: designs for home environments and designs for school environments. Starting outside of school, the Academy of Mundane Magic is a suite of apps designed to address the opportunity statement, design a better way for middle school students who prefer to spend their time in their imagination or in fictional worlds to make connections between fictional frameworks and real-life learning. Prentice is the first of the three apps in this suite. In addition to being an app, Prentice also includes a subscription box with items related to the clan that the apprentice chooses. The first item that every apprentice receives is an adventure bag to encourage them to spend their time learning while out and about experiencing the world. As an apprentice, you begin by choosing your bag, choosing an animal companion to represent you, and answering a series of questions that allow the app to place you in one of three clans: water, earth, or fire. These clans are used to form a sense of belonging and alliance between apprentices across the country who are able to communicate through the app. Apprentices are also encouraged to document their experiences in Prentice in order to earn experience points and clan points. Once they have accumulated enough clan points, they are able to trade these points in and receive special clan-themed items in their subscription box. The second app in this suite is called Edible Alchemy. Apprentices use edible alchemy to brew potions and make magical snacks, all while learning facts and tidbits about nutrition and chemistry. For every potion and snack that they complete, apprentices earn experience points which unlock new recipes, and clan points which can be combined with the clan points from Prentice. The final app in the Academy of Mundane Magic suite is CodeMage. CodeMage is paired with an AR orb that reacts in real time via Bluetooth to what apprentices are doing in the app. In CodeMage, apprentices are able to practice small chunks of C++ coding using the lens of spell writing. Apprentices cast their spells to the orb using AR technology. If their code is incorrect, the spell will fizzle out and they will be asked to spell check and try again. But if their code is correct, the orb will react accordingly in real life. As with edible alchemy, completing spells will earn apprentices experience points to unlock new spells, and clan points, which can be combined with the points from edible alchemy and prentice. During my conversation with Beth White, she told me, "It breaks my heart that so much of what we do in school results in learners feeling average. Every child is exceptional. We just have to give them the opportunity to shine." This made me think that learning tools for the home might not have enough impact to create this type of learning opportunity for kinesthetic learners, which is why I moved to explore tools and solutions for in-school. This is Uniserve, bridging the gap between digital and physical learning. Uniserve aims to provide tools that teach digital technologies using physical interactions and interfaces in order to improve retention of information and learning for kinesthetic learners. The product line includes 3 tools: an abacus, a scale, and a planter. Each product comes in a DIY kit that students assemble, code, and then use as a 3-step learning process, involving both physical and digital aspects. The abacus teaches LED sequencing and coding, and once built can then be used in the same way as a traditional abacus to assist with calculations such as complex multiplication and division. The scale teaches coding and assembly of mechanical sensors and LED displays, and can then be used in experiments or baking for weighing and balancing things like chemicals or ingredients. And finally, the planter teaches coding and assembly of chemical sensors such as pH sensors and H2O sensors, and can then be used to pot plants and monitor the health of the plants through the levels in the soil. In addition to creating tools for the individual students, I also wanted to consider the format of the class itself and how the teachers utilize their classroom spaces, which is why I developed escape classrooms. Many teachers default to read-write assignments because they are too overwhelmed to craft interactive lessons. Escape classrooms are designed to address this issue by decreasing the preparation and cost for teachers to include hands-on activities in class, by providing pre-curated interactive class lessons in an inexpensive box format. Each box contains all the necessary components for teachers to set up interactive scenarios in their classroom, which will get students up and moving about the room. The way it works is that homework gets distributed before class in order for students to gain an understanding of the topic. Then, in class, students will take on a persona and a scenario and must work as a team in order to accomplish tasks and solve puzzles by applying what they've learned. The scenario is limited to the time of the class, in the same way that traditional escape rooms are limited to a time limit, and the teacher acts as a curator and puzzle master throughout the experience. Finally, as a bonus, I'd like to share a project that doesn't fit the same framework as my other work, but is very relevant to the current times of virtual classroom spaces. Screen paddles are paper paddles with icons on them. Students can print and cut out these paddles at home in preparation for virtual classes. These paddles can then be held up in front of the camera so that students can indicate questions, answers, and comments without unmuting. These icons can be used to communicate needs such as, "You're on mute," "I have a question," or "I need a break." They can also be utilized by the teacher to engage students in interactive games and activities without audio overload. There are also applications for these paddles in high school and in college, or in the workplace. As I conclude my work, I would like to leave you with a quote from Mr. Rogers, which reflects the mentality that I approached my thesis topic with. Play is often talked about as if it were a relief from serious learning, But for children, play is serious learning. Play is really the work of childhood. I want to give special thanks to all of my teachers and mentors throughout this process, to all of the experts who have given me guidance, and to my friends and family for their love and support. Thank you.
Thank you, Bethany. So you start with kinesthetic learners, which I think is a wonderful place to start. And then you add this amazing, not just a layer, it becomes the beating heart of like role-playing and fantasy. How did you come to that?
Sure. So I found that a lot of people who struggle in classrooms, specifically kinesthetic learners, often have sort of an opposition to things that are labeled as educational.
Right.
But they sort of require this immersive experience in order to really process information properly. And so I was thinking about all of the opportunities in the world that aren't educational, that provide these immersive environments that these types of learners might engage with voluntarily and find exciting. And so I was looking into a lot of role play environments and video games, and I felt that that was really a strong area to work with for a lot of my projects because it allows this sort of excitement about the learning.
Yeah, and you think about what Harry Potter did for reading, a couple decades ago, extraordinary.
Yes, precisely. So I just wanted to sort of bring this excitement back to the educational process instead of having people think about it as, oh, that's education, that's something I don't want to be doing.
Yeah, but it shows up so many times in your branding, in just how the different products are handled, 2-dimensionally, 3-dimensionally. Really great. And I love the fact that you moved from home to school, and you had acknowledged that you were homeschooled. And I was thinking, oh, what would this MFA program be if it was homeschooling? And I'm like, the students were at home, right? And you started off in engineering, right? And so maybe a little bit about how you feel after having done this work.
Sure. So it's been a really interesting transition for me because a lot of the work that I was doing prior to this program was based around numbers. It was based around sort of the functionality of things. And exploring this thesis topic really made me realize how much the perception of things is very important and how much the visual design and the physical interactions can influence a person's experience with a product. And I think that it's been really eye-opening working with those aspects in my own work.
Yeah, I think also just all the different stakeholders are just acknowledged and handled so well. If you're a parent and you're watching this and you're excited about that, absolutely type that into the chat. I can imagine, and then the generosity of, starting in the home, moving into the school, offering access points and design offerings to just everybody in the mix is really wonderful.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Bethany.
Yeah, thank you.
Please welcome our next presenter to the stage, Yiming Zhu.
Hi everyone, thank you for being here. My name is Yiming Xu, and today I would like to begin by asking you a simple question. Imagine when you go to an art museum. Do you feel overwhelmed with where to start first? Do you feel frustrated when you see the obscure artworks? Are you perhaps even a little bored because nothing seems very interesting to you? For the past year, I will be investigating the relationship between the arts institution and their visitors. According to Wikipedia, this figure is several times higher than it was a decade ago. However, many people cannot understand the artwork they see, although people still frequent museums. The connection people feel to the work of art is no longer given, and may actually be something the average people struggles with. To be fair, museums are aware of this gap and have gone to a great length to make their collections more accessible. Still, there remains an ever-growing gap between the messaging of the art institution and their public. It's precisely this conundrum has inspired my year-long exploration. Meet you on the steps, Museum as Social Experience. To better understand the variety of social experience of the museums, I researched the psychology of the museum visitors, degree of satisfaction, excitement, psychosocial connection, and so on, as well as how visitors behave in and around museums. I also conducted subject matter interview with several expert stakeholders. As a result of these interviews, I drew up a system map of the connections between the logistics and the psychology of a typical visitor experience, the visitor's understanding and appreciation of the art, and her experience of the space. Then, I separate the map into the 4 steps that can be arranged around the entire museum visiting experience. The visitor starts exploring her relationship to the museum. My project invites the visitors to exercise greater autonomy over the narrative, driving the sequence of her visit by allowing her to choose the order in which she visits each piece. I was especially interested in exploring the power relationship between the museum stakeholders and the visitors, whose needs and interests are rarely taken into account. Naturally, museums continue to struggle with the issue of social relevance, elitism, and ownership. Professional survival is about threshold fear. The idea that museums intimidate visitors who are not raised in the museum culture and who feel unwelcome and unrepresented. My digital ecosystem seeks to undermine external control, the dominant narrative, and to instead give visitors the reins, so that her personal experience, curiosity, identity, etc. actually drive the visit and the environment of the museum, thereby allowing for a very different sort of connection and communicative experience. That's where music comes in. Music is an app with multiple modes that help you explore the museum and customize your routes through the collections. First, you choose which museum you want to visit, and the homepage will list the particular museum events and news. Then, you pick several keywords that relate to your personal taste, like music or movies. And the app gonna generate several routes whose content you can look at in order to select how you like to experience the collection. As you proceed through the museum, music will provide relevant fun facts and comments from other visitors who have the similar parameters, so you can enjoy the connection with them too. This individual determined system not only works for the visitors, but also for museum personnel. The data that are input by visitors appear on another portal for museum staff. Through this portal, the staff receive direct feedback that they should use to improve museum visiting experience in a way that reflects what people want. For the business model, music provides 2 plans for visitors. The visitors pay a one-time payment for exploring special routes. Another plan is monthly subscription fee. Users agree to share limited data collected by music to help other museum-like institutions and research centers better gauge how they communicate with their public. As you can see, there is a huge potential in the market for a museum to earn something from this interactive collaboration with the general public. In thinking about how to mediate the relationship between the visitors and art museum, I came up with a type of memento that can be hung on a visitor's refrigerator or wall, and that will remind her of the visit, of the connections made, and of the ongoing dialogue between that visitor and the artist who made the piece, and ideally other visitors who were similarly impacted by that piece. Based on my research, I found ownership is very important for visitors to build personal identity and also have sense of belongings with regards to museum. But can we predict what visitors will remember and why they will remember these things and not others? Museum is a museum map wristband that helps visitors tag their favorite museum experience in different locations. They can hang up at the home as a fan, personalized souvenir. Because visitors' experience will vary, museum will be available as a series of limited edition designs, which should also increase the value and attractiveness of our product. Each wristband also comes with a hashtag that allows visitors to interactively share their experience. Of course, the visitors are not the only forgotten element in the museum system. Let's think about a question. How can we make our experience of piece of art part of our daily lived experience? When we see an artwork, we often find it obscure because we don't know how to connect to it or with a real person behind the work. Artists are the communicator and establishing the connection to their world. And their experience can amplify the visitor experience and bring living artists back into the active dialogue. Luckily, we have Art Talk, an AI artist conversational chatbox app that helps viewers learn about artworks through their connections to the daily life. After downloading the app, a user's wallpaper changed every day. Suppose you are interested in today's wallpaper artwork, you can start chat with today's AI artist or related art movement through the Art Talk chat box. If starting the conversation is difficult for you, Art Talk will suggest some questions to help you chat and get some information you want. For instance, you can join a chat room and learn from the communities and check artist's profile to learn more about her other works and where they are exhibited. Let's think about another question. Does a museum have to be a fixed format? What is museum? Must a museum be housing in a building and remain static? Or can the definition be more flexible? We all know that the ordinary everyday story of individuals are the history of the future. Means that it's imperative that we focus on the present and the resonance of art with our current daily experience in order to make the most of the experience that have brought us where we are and make today what it is. The Museum of is a public experience design that transforms audience role from the observer to participant to content creator, helping people redefine museums as a relevant lived spaces. In thinking about how to redefine the museum by reconstructing museum elements in the public space, I came up with a museum in which everyone's life can be a piece of the deconstructed museum. I invited more than 20 participants to write down what a museum is in their mind, and to reconstruct their museum in front of our installation. These are the most popular words people use to describe their living, deconstructed museum experience. Let's see how they react.
like museums have so much history, but we forget that history constantly changes. And it's like, why don't we talk about what's happening now? Why don't we have things from now? Because that's going to be history sooner or later.
Okay. I believe our world has meaning because of our shared experience, belief, custom, and values. This collection of shared belief and custom is what we call culture, which is why we must take care to make our culture capital, art, reflect, and dialogue with our spaces and ourselves. Our experience of each other, especially through art, must be inclusive, didactic, and inspiring. Thank you.
Hi, Alan.
Hi, Mia.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to see you. All right, so I think a lot of us think about museums as like absolutely solitary experiences.
Yeah.
They're quiet, they're contemplative. I think a lot of us don't go very often anymore because they've become so much about people that I think we might have to accept that. Like, I think that's where we are right now. And for me, like, that's where your thesis takes off. It considers the museum as a social experience, right?
Yes. Actually, Alan, I agree with you. Museums should be a solitary spaces, but also I think museums should be a social space. Because when we go to the museum, we usually see the art, the history, and the culture. At that time, we build a conversation with this art and culture. So I think why don't we build a conversation with our spaces and other people stay in the museum, because we all stay in the same spaces for several hours and we are part of the museum. So I think if we have some conversation or social interaction, it's gonna be so much fun, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that we are part of the museum. I hadn't heard that before. And I guess really your design work provides structure of, in some sense, maybe how to experience a museum if we are in the museum together, as opposed to people taking pictures and collecting, talking to each other, talking on their phones, almost like sort of collecting, making, the main stops kind of thing. So you give us something to do, in a sense, together when we're there.
Yeah, and actually it's very interesting. I'm so proud of that. Like lots of people, they like my interaction design. And also, I met a museum owner, and he wrote down the word soon, and he told me soon is very interesting, because in the museum, we already have lots of past history, and so it's time for us to think about what is next, and what is future, what's gonna happen. So I think that's very interesting and gave me some inspiration.
Now, was that the experience design that you did in Washington Square Park?
Yes.
And so a museum curator, director came and wrote the Museum of Soon?
No, a museum owner.
Museum owner?
Yeah.
Wow, fascinating.
So interesting.
He must have been very delighted to see this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other interesting things that people wrote down? I saw one that was a Museum of Not History.
Yes. Because some people think museums have too much history stuff, and they like to show their uniqueness and specialness in museum. And I think that person, and he is a teenager, like, and he is a millennial, and he don't like something like the history. Yeah.
All right, well, maybe he needs to be in history class, maybe summer school for the history
Yeah.
class. Mia, I think that you could do that experience in Washington Square Park like every weekend. My last thing is, so people who wrote on that, did they want to talk to you? Did they want to describe, like, this is why I wrote what I wrote?
Yeah. They are very willing to talk with me, like their experience and why they wrote down these words. So I think people are very open-minded, and so I think it's really great.
Yeah, well, it was a beautiful day, it looked like on the video. So for those of you who have an idea for the Museum of, you can type it in the chat. But then, of course, Mia's going to want to talk to you for a while. So we'll see you after the break. Thanks so much, Mia.
Thank you, Alan.
Please welcome our next presenter to the stage, Siddhant Goyal.
Hi everyone, I'm Siddhant Goyal and welcome. For the first 24 years of my life, I have lived in Mumbai, one of the busiest cities in the world. And on a daily basis, whether it's to grab a bite on the go or to sneaking out at night to buy a loose cigarette, I have proudly interacted with individuals, entrepreneurs, and businesses who operate in the grey economy. Activities that have been categorized as illegal, underground, or unlawful in nature by many experts. Disagreeing with them, and to better understand the landscape, I spent the last year researching about what the experts call as the underground economy. And today, I'm proud to present to you my thesis, The Scattered Billion, Designing for the Grey Economy. To unpack this phenomena of grey, I began by separating the formal and the informal. Formal being referred to as the economy of luxury, whereas informal or the black market is considered as the economic activities that take place outside government-sanctioned rules and regulations. Starting my secondary research, I read through a ton of books and articles around the subject. And this quote from Robert Newworth really stood out. There is nothing underground about it. It's our prejudgment that it's underground. Which led me to the understanding of the grey market as a free-for-all economic arena where anything is possible. It is not the black market, and there's definitely nothing underground about it. It includes people from selling food on the street to the unpaid labors of mother that goes unrecognized. Now, with the informal economy being the only one that's growing, I have a question for you to think about in the next few minutes. If all the world's informal sector was built into one nation, what would its annual GDP be? Let me know your answer in the chat, and I'll answer this question by the end of this presentation. My research included collaborating with a variety of subject matter experts through a spectrum of fields. Shubham Gupta, a risk analyst, pointed out that these workers are intimidated by banks. And this conversation shaped my designs through the initial part of my thesis, which focused on the shift towards formalization. One such service that facilitates inclusion from the bottom of the pyramid is the underbank. The underbank is an alternative digital bank for the unbanked to deliver financial inclusion. Our model loads cash, but also receipts that are issued informally against a person's name with the guarantee of a future payment. Anyone with a smartphone can act as a banknote, helping maintain transactional records to start developing a credit score for these workers. The vision was to build a fully comprehensive banking system for the underbanked, analogous to the telecom networks. Now, being a designer and empathizing with my user, I asked myself this question: what if these informal workers do not want to be included in the formalization? Learning about their community history and differences in power dynamics amongst the various stakeholders in the sector led to the conclusion that there is no clear distinction between the black and the grey market within the informal sector, which later in my research got me to the question: how might we use design to provide a clear distinction between the black and the grey markets within the informal sector in a product and a systemic way to provide a clear and a lasting benefit on the global economy? Narrowing my research, I decided to focus solely on India. 93% of the total workforce in India is employed in the informal sector. And 94% of the total women population are employed in this particular sector. This includes women in every field, ranging from farming to healthcare. Now, in order to investigate this question about how design could be used to provide a clear distinction, I envision Drishyata, a DIY collective identity initiative for women working in the grey economy. It is a social campaign aimed at workers and employers to educate them and inform them about worker rights, even if they are not registered as a part of the government. It provides them with visual prompts for them to make their own Drishyata badge. This DIY pamphlet also includes an artifact that could be a part of the daily rituals, also functioning as a badge of honor for the working women, giving them a feeling of pride. Drishyata, show your pride. Diving further into their daily lives, I came across a finding that we have not even recognized the fact that these workers are sexually harassed and assaulted on a daily basis. Due to India's persistent gender norms, women are restricted in terms of their movements. In rural India, men refuse women to go out of their village for training or subsequent job placements, which has caused these women to be isolated and invisible in their homes. But an important trend that has surfaced in the recent years is the rise in usage of mobile technology, both in the rural and urban areas, which nudged me in the direction to construct Saheli, a WhatsApp complaint chatbot that working women can talk to about their day. Invitations to talk to it could be sent easily via WhatsApp forwards. Made for women who are looking to complain about their day to a Saheli or a friend that is available 24/7, taking the user through a series of conversational prompts, gathering information, and providing them with relevant resources regarding their safety in the workplace if needed. While testing this concept with my users, I came upon a fascinating insight. That is, a number of these women can't read or write and are hacking their way through these digital platforms in their daily lives. Jumping on to visualizing and mapping the daily journey of an urban domestic worker, surfaced that jobs in urban areas are closer to their locality, but they still lack access to traditionally male-dominated job networks. Plotting the data transfer between their employer and their connections, as it is one of the most important factors when it comes to their future employment, I caught sight on the fact that there's a clear difference in power dynamic, but also that women have a superpower: the ability to form localized social group, which helped me envision Didi, an on-demand mobile application that utilizes the ability of women to connect locally, connecting employers and workers. Choose from hundreds of different Didis or an elder sister to help you out the same day. From babysitting to elder care, find Didis when you need them the most. Choose a date according to your need and the Didi's availability, and start chatting with your Didi through voice memos to change the details of the arrangement if needed. Now, there are some services that cater to this gap currently, but their primary focus is on formalizing and branding these workers, charging a hefty commission from both the employers and the workers, and not taking into consideration the difference in the power dynamics. We make money by charging a monthly subscription of around $7 from the employer, leaving the final transaction to be done informally via cash or any mode preferred by the worker. Now let me tell you, why is this service great? This service does not require a smartphone for the onboarding of the user and to list themselves on the platform. Using interactive voice response technology, data such as name, PIN code, and the service they provide can be extracted. Now, with a total serviceable market of around 32 million households, and with a growth percentage of around 10 to 15%, the service is projected to make around $1.5 million in the first 3 years. The vision at Didi is to create an environment where women are encouraged to work, giving them control of assets, lowering rates of domestic violence, and increased decision-making in the household. This gets me to the end of my presentation and the question that if all the world's informal sector was built into one nation, what would its yearly GDP be? And the answer to that is $10 trillion a year, being only second to the United States. On that note, I would like to end my presentation, but the one thing that I would like to take you all away is fighting the informal sector isn't the answer. Designing products and services not for their inclusion, but for their distinction, addressing the difference in power dynamics is. I would like to thank Alan Chorchinoff and the entire team at POD and my friends and family back in India who have helped me through this process. Thank you.
I wanted to ask you about Saheli, and in particular, what some of the conversational prompts were. That was quite interesting.
Yeah, so Saheli could be imagined as a slam book where people, instead of talking about their crush or their favorite teacher, they talk about their daily life. So like an event in your day where you felt helpless or powerless, because many of these times, like people don't know when they are being emotionally abused. So I think like having that, also giving them like a multiple choice questions around providing information regarding sexual assault and also like contraception is available.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground in these prompts. So picking up on this notion of like not texting, you had talked about acknowledging high rates of illiteracy and actually moving the communication to voice memos instead of SMS, which increases access immeasurably. Can you talk a little bit more about what kinds of opportunities that might open up?
So I think, with the opportunity, the maximum space of opportunity in this group was that these people use digital tools in a group. They don't use it by themselves.
Right.
So the opportunity over there is that peer-to-peer learning and like group learning can be implemented over there in a much better way. So because when they learn something, they are very excited to teach others in their surrounding, and they live in like close-knit communities. So I think this can cause like a ripple effect for them, for like peer-to-peer or like peer-to-group transactions.
It's great. It makes me excited again about the potential of platforms, and I love how you've opened this up to so many people. And I think you're making us think differently about the informal economy. So thanks so much, Sid.
Thank you.
Please welcome our next presenter to the stage, B. Guanghui.
Hi guys, this is B, and it's such a great pleasure to have you here and to share my thesis explorations during the past year with all of you. My thesis title is Bursting Bubble, Learning About Others Through Digital Play, and the bubbles refer to the filter bubbles, a state of intellectual isolation. With the existing system of social media platform, users become separated from information that disagrees with their viewpoints, effectively isolating them in their own cultural or biological bubbles. This may lead us to a potential dystopia where we eventually lack the means and the will to communicate with people outside our bubbles. But I don't want to live in an echo chamber. I hope we can live in a world where friendly communications happen among everyone. As I went on to my thesis, this became the main goal of my project. I conducted both primary and secondary research around the connections among individuals, especially among strangers. And according to my research, I believe that everything is complex and multifaceted. One may have various hobbies, tastes, preferences, cultural backgrounds, and numerous experiences hidden inside. By finding the related topics, it would lead to engaging interactions among us. Secondly, according to the imagined contact hypothesis, knowing others through a series of positive interactions helps increase the friendly attitude toward the related individuals and groups. And here, on the left, many existing social media platforms create these closed-cycled, personalized feeds, thus create the filter bubbles. What if we can design some interactions to expand the friendly attitude gained from in-group contact to the out-group contact? We may burst the bubbles and form positive norms among various individuals. This insight and the following research lead me to envision different projects exploring the possibility of interactions and triggers. The first project is PaiPai, a social media platform based on to-do lists that connect users to all the possibilities of their activities. The target users are overlapped active digital media users and the young professionals who frequently share their lives on the internet and use productivity apps. Now, let's walk through the journey in PaiPai. Type in the purpose and missions of the day and fill out the specific activities. Different from most of the other productivity apps, PaiPai equally values everything we do we like. And it will record every progress we made as an achievement. Take a rest and make ourselves a drink, yes. Stop the plan to enjoy this lovely afternoon, yes. Upload and record your activities during your free time, of course. Only push you to stay focused on your work, absolutely no. Thus, we shall reveal the various activities throughout the day and understand how complex ourselves could be by the end of the journey. Last but not least, it's time to explore how others do the same thing we did differently. We may click on a specific activity. For example, when we are preparing for the winter, what do others do? Some make 饺子. Some have to shovel the snow. Someone steps into the jar. Someone stalks cabbage, selecting a Christmas tree, hanging out with sled dogs, stalking firewood, or stalking alcohol. I know it's gonna be weird to ask this question now, but I'm curious, how would you prepare for the winter? Could you please share it in the comment channel, please? We don't usually have that chance to talk about the coming winter in May, right? I believe when we talk about the things we do, we love, we are also talking about ourselves. The uniqueness and the diversity of us, our cultures, are presented and connected during this process. If you could feel this sense, this feeling of being connected, that's what I expected. Thank you. Now, let's move our conversation to the subject of play. The Rhythm Talks. It is an anonymous chatting room that matches random users by the beats they created. On most social media platforms, the content people browse usually comes from a small group of key opinion leaders, celebrities, or people they are very familiar with. The voices and the experiences of everyday life from the ordinary people out of the groups are missing. And I want to design the interactions that encourage the communications among people that don't usually meet. Let's experience the journey in Rhizome Talks. Each day, we start with making ourselves a new profile that reflects how we feel now and share some news from our daily lives anonymously. Then create the beats and match to 3 other users based on the tempo, tones, and tracks of our beats. Now I may stop talking for seconds. Here, we may play with the beats, the cute emojis, or directly chat with each other. And then it comes to another engaging interaction. 1 word from each member. The band is named. We are no longer 4 random strangers anymore. We are the members of Jumping Pizza Sweet Fly. Yeah, the lovely interactions create the lovely connections. And all the collaborations will be saved in our albums automatically for us to review and to remember. Each time we replay the co-created music, it will take us back to the lovely atmosphere. We can also add them as friends and continually see a variety of fragments of their lives. With the Rhizome Talks, we may randomly engage with diverse people and their lives during the positive interactions, and realize that every stranger may have some fascinating experiences if we care to explore. And when walking on the street, all of them might have been our band members. And here is the system of Rhizome Talks. Now, I will expand my explorations, the spectrum of interactions and triggers into the physical world with the joy tap. During the previous explorations, I noticed that a social platform would not exist until people gather. In other words, the good old physical places like parks and cafes are always going to be the natural spot for us to meet strangers. How might we trigger the interactions among 2 strangers sitting around at a cafe and lead to the communications immediately? Here is my answer. The joy tap, with the intention to get people close, to participate, to play with each other, and share some funny moments. It gradually adapted as a combination of mobile power bank, speaker, and DJ controller. It allows the user to invite and connect to the one they meet, then play the music unconsciously and laughs loudly. That's the story of joy tap. And that's the story of my thesis. By the end of the presentation, I want to say thank you for all the instructors, fantastic POD alumni, staff, and all my folks. I can't make this long journey without all of you. And congratulations, guys. And my best wishes for all the audience here. Let's enjoy this diverse world together. Thank you.
Hey, B.
Hi, Alan.
So this started with the imagined contact hypothesis, which I had to look up. Fascinating, the idea that if you imagine a positive social interaction with someone, you have more positive attitudes toward them and perhaps less prejudice attitudes. But then you moved very quickly to Pai, which I really adore because it is a kind of, it's a to-do app, but I think the hypothesis is that we can understand somebody else, someone different from us, by what they do, as opposed to what they say or who we think that they are. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Actually, that's a complex question to answer. But for me, first of all, I don't think the opinion we hold, we say, we believe, can fully reflect who we are, because there are so much different ideas broadly spread on all these different kind of media, and we are educated and influenced to hold some of them, and some of those ideas we hold it's not really.
You want to burst the bubble.
Yeah, somehow also. In addition to bursting the bubble, the idea we hold sometimes not usually be validated by the reality, by our life, especially when it comes to the people or the thing we are not familiar with.
Right.
Yeah, but our behaviors, the things we do, can better reflect ourselves, our experiences, our cultures, and especially our connections or relationship with a certain thing.
Sure, and our rituals, right? Our rituals and habits. I want to move to the next project because just a week ago I heard something that I think is really amazing, and I'll paste a link to it. It was music makes you feel feelings, lyrics make you think thoughts, songs make you feel thoughts. And I was just, oh, yeah. And then I was thinking about your thesis and some of your music projects as a way to, again, get different people together, but to accomplish something else besides just making music together. Yeah. And I was thinking about, feeling the thoughts of getting to the heart of it. Music is this very, very powerful cross-cultural phenomenon. You were excited about bringing that into your work in a couple of ways. Talk to us about that.
That's another.
Is this also a long answer?
I think that's another complex question to answer. By the way, actually, it reminded me previous experiences. Like it was an afternoon. I was waiting for my order pickup in a ramen store near my apartment, and there was a Japanese pop song played. And I was sitting there.
A Japanese pop song.
Yeah, and shaking my leg with the beats. And I suddenly noticed the one sitting opposite was also shaking his leg.
That's so nice.
And we are in the same beat.
Yeah.
And we look at each other, can't stop to smile and laugh to each other. We should talk, but none of us know the other language. Yeah. I think I can speak English and Chinese, but the guy sitting outside me was kind of speaking Spanish, and we can't talk.
Yeah.
So during that 10 minutes, we are just shaking leg to communicate.
This is the best. You said we should talk, but maybe the answer is no. You don't actually need to talk. You're already sharing this experience together. That's a beautiful story, V.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alan.
Please welcome our next presenter to the stage, Zhenxuan Wang.
Hi everyone. This is my mom. She was fashion designer when I little. And this is me. I was wearing the dress that she made for me in these pictures. I grew up with sewing machines, giant tailor scissors, and different fabric, which allows me have a special place in fashion within me as I grew up. Therefore, I experienced the whole clothing process many times. From the start, this is the developmental process of clothing, starting from plan, turning to a garment. It only costs $4.99 for us to get t-shirts from H&M. But have you ever thought about the hiding environment costs? The water use, the pesticides, the production, and transportation. It takes 2,007 liters of the water to produce a single t-shirt. This is a lot of effort by human resource, and it's not easy. One of the main concerns in China that every second of garbage truck of clothing is landfilled and incinerated, which infect the environment. My name is Zhenxuan Wang, and today I will bring you through my thesis titled Secondhand, Second Love, Reimagine Sustainable Fashion in China. And secondhand clothing can help with these issues, and the best sustainable choice. In China, there's a massive stigma around the secondhand clothing. People regarding a secondhand pair as dirty, old, and sign of poverty. When people wear secondhand clothing in Western countries such as US, it seems less stigma and a way to express themselves. So I saw the opportunity there. The vintage starting to become more acceptable in China. And how to turn things around, and why people have such a negative attitude toward the secondhand clothing. To understanding why, I did some research, an interview with subject matter experts, including the fashion designer, secondhand retail owner, and the customers. As stated by the interviewer's named Laura, she said, buying secondhand is hunting pleasure because you don't know what you can find in the pocket. It might be a photo or notes from the previous owner. This made me realize the clothing is simple more special when you know where it comes from or the story from the previous owner. This appreciation for it encourages people to wear it well and treat it with care. So, how can one reduce the stigma on the secondhand and bring this trend upward? I designed a new installation shopping experience for the retail store, which I named Nailed It Thread. Let's take a look at how store experience works. This experience sells clothing by the storytelling through those sculpture wall on the wall, and without displaying actual pairs. Inside of the store, there will be the high chest with a different height on the wall, and each high level, there's a mouse that represents different story for the woman, men, and kids. This component in the store is experimental. Let's listen to one story from kids' secondhand clothing.
A long time ago, I made a dress for my daughter, Zia, based off of a drawing she had done. She loved this dress, and it has since been a big hit with everyone that saw it. At that time, Zia could often be quoted saying, "I am wearing my imagination." Since my daughter is growing up, this dress doesn't fit her anymore. For this dress, Zia and I would like to find a little owner. I hope to encourage children to unrestrainedly open their imaginations with this dress.
To increasing the achievement of this new shopping experience, I was selling the story about secondhand items in the Washington Square Park. To prevent incorrect interactive results, I removed various interactive costs by object size limit and price. But I noticed there is a lack of trust from the people I represent too. The main reason is that I didn't show them the physical product at the beginning. From improving this shopping experience, let me introduce this app ITEL. ITEL creative clothing categories for the clothing by the type of the emotion-related story. In general, the regular fashion app created the category by the type of garment. And also, only clothing detail page, ITEL offers a story that clothing hold instead of showing basic information about garment. In app ITELs, usually can also donate their clothing, including the story that bring to the store. On the map, you can find every participating clothing store that have an ITEL platform. I have found that the second-hand clothing is sustainable practice that gives the clothing a second chance at love. Shopping doesn't have to be the guilty pleasure if you participating in the second-hand clothing market. So choosing the right piece based on the story you love, going to a pleasure hunt. But if you have a damaged clothing, what about them? People feel shame about wearing and donate the damaged clothing into the public, and they threw them away. Malin Vamber says, organic and recycled doesn't always equal sustainability. There's no one sustainable fabric in itself. So what should we do? Let's look back 3 essential elements of the stigma around a second-hand garment. I find out the damaged clothing is the one that carries the most severe stigma, people regarding them as trash, as invaluable item. Therefore, this leads to the person to discarding them. We often hear people say, resale is the future of the fashion, but Julie Van Rice says, resale is part of fashion solutions and will equal with going forward. The future of the fashion is always creativity. So, reinsets and upcycling. I believe we can extracting the valuable part from damaged clothing. I design a term which helps the people reinsess damaged clothing and identify them as a part of the piece of fabric or valuable components. Tear down, turn into a new garment. If I have a damaged pants, first, identify the valuable component, and then tear them up. Turn will help you sell. Other users can use the valuable part turned into a new garment by using your item. Turn also give you ideas. User can go to a community center to check others' posts to learning upcycling. To physicalize this experience on the platform of Turn, I also created a contemporary organizer for the sewing material. Do you still remember your grandma's reaction when you wear the first pair of ripped jeans? They want to repair them instead of discarding them. People are scared about sewing because it takes time and patience. But the sewer put their sentiment into the garment. From this data of lifespan clothing, adults above the age 51 keep the pairs into their wardrobe almost 2 times than young generation. Therefore, the young generation become my target user. And why that happen? Because of fast fashion, a careless disregard of cost of creating and the true value of the clothing. So, what can we do? We can fix our clothing. Sewing machine cannot fix everything, and not for everyone to have it. When we think about hand sewing compared to the sewing machines, hand sewing actually makes clothing stronger than the sewing machine. To exploring better way for user to use sewing tools, I analyze the movement of the sewing process during my sketching. Here's my final product, reformations. The reformations give you tools and information for your reformation. Let's look at how inspire user with something I put together. And here is package design for the product and the billboard campaign for it. Now I want to jump conclusions that the most sustainable clothing is already exist. Love for longer. Thank you.
Jen-Swen, thank you. I love the quote that you had, the future of fashion is creativity, from the CEO of The Real Real. And this led to the project Turn. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, for my understanding, I totally agree with Jules Van Rice, what she says. And because everyone knows the fashion is a circle. So from my perspective, the secondhand clothing actually is a future, and also it represents our past.
Ah, so nice.
Yeah, so when we think about the fashion, the secondhand always will be the leading the train, because every fashion designer, they extracting the elements from the past and creative the new things in the future. So they always gonna be in the circles and always will be lead. The past always will lead to the future. So I totally agree with that.
This is so beautiful. We just need to end right there. I think we got the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm teasing. You learned some amazing stories from your interview. I mean, this actually started with fast fashion, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because I really got really interesting some quote and insight from my interview. One of the vintage store owner, she was telling me he don't understanding why people have stigma around the secondhand clothing, because what he think about the secondhand clothing and the fast fashion, people usually obsess about fast fashion because it's new and cheap, and never have once thought about the fast fashion actually also get tried on 1,000 times by someone else. So we cannot say, we cannot say it's also new.
Okay. So if you go to a secondhand store, you're thinking that this garment has been tried on a lot, worn a lot, but in the H&M as well, right?
Yeah.
In the changing rooms. That's fascinating, actually. I am in love with that project you did last semester, I Tell, where the idea is that in a secondhand clothing store, that there's a tag, and I don't remember if it was a QR code, but it leads to some sort of recording or text story that the person who had donated or sold the secondhand piece of clothing to the store. And so the idea is that I can choose ITEL retailers or secondhand clothing stores who participate in the ITEL platform.
Yes, you can choose every participating clothing store on the ITEL platform, and you can bring your clothing and into the store, donate your clothing with a story.
With a story,
yeah.
My daughter Bronwyn is really into thrifting right now, and I can't imagine how exciting she and her generation would be that they could actually record this story. It could be images, it could be video that went along with this piece of clothing of why it was meaningful to her.
Yeah, the story always make people more appreciate the things where you get from, and the story from the previous owner. It makes the meaningful.
It's the circle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage our next presenter, Danica Do.
So first, let's go back in time for a year. In March 2020, New York City is in lockdown because of the pandemic. And being an Asian, especially a Chinese student living and studying here, I can definitely feel the tension rising up. According to a nonprofit group, Stop AAPI Hate, nearly 4,000 incidents have been reported nationwide since the pandemic started. And what's getting worse is in this year, with the terrifying Atlantic shooting and constant attacks, hate speeches on the street. I'm wondering, how might we using design to fight anti-Asian hate in the US? Hi everyone, my name is Danica Do. Today, I'm proudly presenting my master's thesis called Uplifting, Lifting Up, Asian Power from Our Own Hands. Although the discrimination and violence against Asians only recently gained a broader attention, and it seems like for some people it appears out of nowhere, but the discrimination has been here the whole time. For Asian Americans, their experience being viewed as foreign, being mocked for how they look, and being perceived as a threat goes way back in centuries. For my thesis, I reviewed a variety of books learning about history, racial justice, and autobiography. I conducted a series of subject matter expert interviews to examine the social and mental aspect of this territory. And thanks to the content creator and greater Asian internet community, I also keep myself immersed in these communications and follow up what's new through my whole year process. I gathered this system map, breaking down discrimination against people of Asian descent into several categories. When I'm asking why I don't hear the racisms people are facing in the past, one particular thing pops up. It is the submissive stereotypes which Asians have. The society is trying to silence Asian Americans by calling them the model minorities. Also, due to a trait of the culture and education, Asian American people are not vocal enough to share their experiences. So I want to bring back the power to our own hands by voice. I designed Kick-Ass Asian, a platform that gives Asian American spaces to share their experiences. It is built for sharing, listening, and learning inside and outside the community. And the goal of this app is to provoke conversation with inclusiveness. It is built for 2 user groups. If you are self-identified as Asian American, you can record a 90-second voice about your experiences growing up as Asian and share it with your emotion. People who are not Asian are also welcomed to the platform. You can listen to the stories and also learn history and culture from the platform. This app lets me believe in the power of voice. While general people are trying to get their words out, Asian American voices are not that common in mass media. After the Joy Luck Club film released in 1993, people waited 25 years for the second all-Asian cast film, Crazy Rich Asian, to happen in Hollywood. Besides, whitewashing for Asian roles was still happening a few years ago, and Asian characters are always stereotyped as computer nerd, restaurant owner, and kung fu master. And most importantly, they're always the sidekick, not the main character. So imagine growing up not seeing people who look like you on TV and in movies. There is an urge for Asian American teenagers to have Asian icons to look up to feel the power of being represented. Introducing Yuan, an app letting Asian American teenagers create their own superheroes with original stories. It starts from taking a picture of yourself, building an avatar with your own facial features. Using your own creativity to create your unique superpower, secret identity, and other features to create your own story. Yuan also allows you to share it with your friends, your family, and the community with yourself as a superhero. You can help the teenagers to break the stereotype, let them to dream big, to explore their identity, and give the power back to their own hands. This app discovery inspired me to look deeper into the Asian American children's perspective, to navigate what are the nuanced experience growing up as Asian American. Well, after talking to real people in life, also dig into these amazing YouTuber stories, one particular thing pops up. David Chang phrased it in Ugly Delicious. As a Korean American, he said, "There are food that I grew up loving, but I was embarrassed to public love." This is actually a very common experience for kids from minority groups. When these kids bring their lunchbox to school, they'll get picked on by other kids saying that their food is weird, gross, and smells funny. So I designed a set of products called Disguised Pizza. It is built to camouflage their traditional food to help the kids not being bullied at school lunchtime. For the main lunchbox, we print a pizza from the outside to indicate other people what's inside. It is the disguise for you to fit in. But when you open the lunchbox, the grid assured that the slice of pizza is not going to fit, so you can secretly enjoy the food your mom packed for you. We are also aware of the smell people complain about, so the kit also includes a camouflage spray for you to create a pizza smell around you, and a guide template to teach children how to use the kit step by step. Well, I'm particularly aware of the negative effect hiding can do to children, and the whole product set is never meant as a real solution. So what can we do when what we like and what we believe in is being devalued in the society? And how might we create an environment to show our culture instead of to hide, to feel proud of our culture instead of being ashamed? I want to invite people in, dig into stories, and educate people, so I create So Delicious, an experience populating Chinese food stories through the collection of songs. Chinese food suffers from a degree of prejudice in the US, with some people associating it with words like unclean, cheap, and inferior. If you think about it, some racial slurs like dog eater, cat eater are perceived from the biases towards our food. As a Chinese person, I know Chinese food is much richer than General Tso's chicken and egg rolls. So I created these posters telling people the fact about these popular Chinese American dishes and invite people to leave a voicemail about their favorite Chinese dish. So do you know General Tso is a famous general in the Qing dynasty, but the chicken dish has nothing to do with him? And this dish, also the fortune cookie, are all born in the US. They are not even from China. My value proposition through the whole process is to first raise awareness and then engage people with knowledge and encourage people to share their stories. And my final goal is to get these stories to people who don't have that much knowledge about Chinese food. I went to Chinatown in New York City, talking to the local shop owners about my campaign and putting up posters in their shop windows. I also made these special fortune cookies, putting fun facts about Chinese food and distributed them in the park. Here's a short clip about the interactions. Through the whole experience and social media campaign, I guided voice stories in different languages about homesickness, memory, and recipe. What I learned from this project is how food brings people's hearts and voice together. Then I got into the crowd and started protesting. One slogan caught my eye: "Love our people like you love our food." This statement shows the paradox of reality and speaks to our hearts. So I thought, why not go one step further? Instead of using food to persuade people to respect us, why not turn food into our strength to defend ourselves? So I envisioned this project called Food Weapon. It is a series of illustrations featuring new ways to interact with Asian food. It weaponized the food to give the individuals the power to fight racism and led the community to be more proud of their culture through the lens of humor. I made the poster version free to download so you can print your own. I envision it being made into posters and distributed to local shops to raise awareness. Being printed on t-shirts to make a personal statement. And being held in protest to showcase Asian power. Well, through my whole journey, I'm discovering Asian power from voice, representation, and culture to fight discrimination. Hope my design can uplift the Asian community with an uplifting spirit. At the end of my presentation, I want to say something to the Asian community. As one of my favorite SNL cast, also the first Asian cast, Bowen Yang, said in one of the skit, 加油, which means fill up in English. May is Asian American and Pacific Islanders Heritage Month. Let's bring on this attitude and celebrate it. Be proud and be brave. I want to thank you all for listening, and special thanks to my family, my friends, and POD family who supported me when I'm down. And thanks to the online Asian community to give me the inspiration and strength. My power cannot come true without any of you guys. Thank you.
Wow, that was powerful, emotional. It's remarkable the continuum that you covered in like reclaiming tropes and stereotypes and turning them around using design, from the pizza box as a speculative object, as really a product to provoke and to question, all the way to the food weapons. Let's rewind a little bit to when you had said this app makes me believe in the power of voice, which was really, really grabbed me. Maybe talk a little bit more about that moment in that development.
Okay. So I think voice is like so important in America, and it is basically power in America. And the first app starts from a place where I just started my thesis, and it's in last year. So a lot of like the hate crimes is now like the whole situation is not that intense, it's not that obvious. And also I started my thesis not knowing much about the topic. So at that time, I'm doing like a lot of research, and I basically watch a bunch of YouTube videos. No joke, I watched 400 YouTube videos like through the whole year.
Did you publish the playlist?
Yeah, I have.
And put Bowen Yang at the top and the bottom of that. I adore him. Yeah.
So I think what I got after watching like these videos, well, I gained so much just watching the videos, just hearing people talking about their stories. Mm-hmm. So I think, yeah, other people like can gain something from just opening up the conversation. So I think voice is very important. That's why it's like.
Yeah, and you came at that project. I remember it was an opportunity to both.
Asian American.
Yeah, to give like permission and strength to actually speak, but then also for other people, non-Asians, to listen, right? All on the same platform, which I thought was pretty clever. You know, you bring up a point that I think we have to acknowledge, which is this project started, you know, technically a year and a half ago, and so, you know, history and your project. I don't know if they collided, but they certainly intersected. Yeah. And I can imagine you feeling just increasing pressure, particularly in the last 5 or 6 months, to take this project and to really, I mean, I would say like drive it home, but to make it count. How do you feel about this body of work in this moment that we're in right now?
I think the process is definitely hard for me. Yeah, because the whole situation is so urgent and is constantly changing. And I sometimes always feel like I'm worried if what I do today, is it still going to be relevant tomorrow?
Right.
Yeah, but after like talking to some faculties, they tell me that it's such a complex problem and you can't solve it by your own. So I think for me, the whole process is to learn along the way and also add my own interest into this. So that's why I have a huge chunk of exploration just about culture and about food, because food just speaks so much to me, and I have deep connection since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the iPhone cases, the posters, we can find those. We should go to your website, and then there'll be a link.
Yeah.
and maybe to download and to print and to purchase and to support. I think you've made incredible contributions here, Danica. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, that is a wrap. Congratulations to all the students. Thank you so much to all the faculty and staff, everybody who helped put this event together. And we will see you in the after party right after this. Good night, everybody. QB.
Your mask was on for this one, but
Shit. Were we still rolling?
Yeah.
Then let's leave that. Good night, everybody.
Okay, so this is with Alan, background left, Kgothatso, background right. Both of us have our background right. Okay, this is the third recording where my background is on the right, and Kgothatso's background was it the left?
Mine, yes, mine is on the left.
1, 2, 3. Oh no, wait. I think we did it the wrong way. Try the other way.
Okay.
Okay, well that was too good. That was too seamless. What are we gonna do for the blooper reel?
So I know that gratitude, Alan, is something that you hold dear, and as students, you're always encouraging us to say thank you to those who have helped us along the way or given us their time. And so I would like to teach you a Sepedi word, which means give thanks, and it is lebogang.
Oh boy. All right. Lebogang.
Yeah, so less of the boo.
He's like, yeah, that's not very good. Okay.
Yeah, so more of a bo sound, like lebogang.
Lebogang.
Yeah. That's
really?
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds really
Oh.
good. Just need to practice a little bit more.